Welcome to the smoke room. Go ahead and call me on Skype at Vocab Malone. All right. We don't have any guests yet, but I have seen a few people just ask some questions already. So LJ is the first question of the day. LJ says, how do you handle your relationship with non-believers? Do you draw lines, or what guidance would you give? Well, with unbelievers in your life, you know, there could be family members, it could be people at work, right? All kinds of things. You know, it's good to be a good listener, man. LJ, you know, guy, girl, I don't know who you are, but just think, let me listen to this person. And you know, a good way to draw out a chance for you to listen, it is to ask them questions. So you ask for guidance with unbelievers. You know, one of the biggest things I would say, it is to ask them a question. Ask unbelievers questions about why they believe, what they believe. Ask questions, you know, not in an annoying way, not in a rude way. Just ask, you know, hey, do you mind if I ask you this? That's interesting you said that. Just ask questions, you know. Just develop that skill and then listen to the answers, and you'll learn a lot about that. And then once you've asked enough, you can say, no, you said that earlier. No, you said this. I'm interested in how those two things go together. You're just asking questions. And then eventually they might ask you what you believe, or you'll look for those opportunities. But a big thing is develop the skill of listening and asking questions. Draw lines. It depends what you mean by that, you know? You know, the old missionary dating, meaning you're a guy, you got an unsaved girlfriend, you're a girl, you got an unsaved. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just don't do it. No matter how lonely you are, don't do it. You talk about lines, that's a line. You cannot be unequally yoked, and I do think that scripture applies there. Paul says it, but it goes with 1,000 things. Some people apply it even into business relationships. Can you go into a business with an unbeliever? I think that's a more debatable thing. That's different than an eternal covenant kind of thing, or a lifelong commitment, I guess I'd rather say. You know what I'm saying? I think there's some variations there, but that's definitely one line you got to draw. Just don't even, you know? When it comes to neighbors, things like that, you know, you just got to be open. At the end of the day, we got a message. So I said listen and ask questions. I'm not saying you don't speak, because you do need to speak the gospel, the Bible says, right? So clearly, yes, you do that. But maybe, you know, work on surprising the unbeliever. I don't mean dissing Christians and saying how different and better you are, but show the unbeliever that you're thoughtful, that you're compassionate, that you're caring. If it's your neighbor, make them glad that you're neighbors. If it's someone at your job, find a way to help them out in their workload. Now you might say, well, they take advantage of me. Look, there's all kinds of thorny issues. A lot of this happens regardless if you're a Christian or non-Christian, and some of that just kind of changes the dynamic, right? It is what it is. But I think that we have to really realize we're the underdog, we're the minority, we're the strangers, we're the aliens, we're the pilgrims. And I think if we have that, it kind of gives us a level of humility, recognizing, you know, there's a narrow road, kind of broad road, but not like we're better. Just understanding they probably don't really understand what I believe. They probably think I'm weird. They probably have stereotypes. Just kind of understand that going in and don't get offended, you know? JJ says we should do a Steven Anderson versus Vocab epic rap battle. You know, I got an old blog post. I think I've taken it down, and I think it was called My Run-In with Steven Anderson. I don't know if it's online anymore. But, you know, I ran into him one time. It's a long story how it happened. It's kind of funny. One day I'll tell it, but short version is he immediately was very anti-Calvinistic. Even before I said anything about it, he was anti-church history. He was anti-being nice to me, and he didn't know who I was. I wasn't even being rude like that. Dude just out the gate comes swinging, and what was so weird about this encounter with Steven Anderson, which maybe I'll talk more about some other time, is he was going door to door witnessing in a hood area. That's how I happened to be driving by. And he's knocking on people's door, and he's speaking to them in pretty good Spanish. And he's all nice and friendly and smiling. And then the second he turns around and talks to me, he's super rude and cuts me off and is like shooting me. I'm like, why can't you just be as nice to me as you were the Spanish-speaking folks in the neighborhood right here? Very weird kind of view they have. They're out there witnessing, very nice to everyone, and showing them love and kindness and generosity and just being real chill and speaking their language, so not just coming in all English. And then the second he meets me, a fellow Christian, he's like, go to hell. And he actually told me to go to hell twice. So interesting thing. So I don't know if that's going to happen. Benjamin White says, good books for Christian apologetics. I already have Tactics by Greg Koukl and A Case for Christ. Any other recommendations? Well, you, Benjamin White, have got two of the kind of foundational cornerstone books for Christian apologetics. Let me add a third. And if you get this one, then come back and I'll give you a fourth. The third one you need to add is Always Ready by Greg Bahnsen. Bahnsen. Always Ready. Greg Bahnsen. It's usually a black book with a little picture on the cover, and I think it's like Directions in Defending the Faith. I forget the subtitle. But Benjamin White, you want to get Always Ready by Greg Bahnsen. Okay? VB says, I heard people say about church building because it's supposed to bind black people to debt and buying their buildings, but white people also have to pay for their buildings also. I'm sorry, VB, I don't understand what you're saying. It looks like it's just a comment, and I don't know what's going on there. Spazzy Jazzy says, any book recommendations for basic philosophy and logic? You said basic. I don't agree with everything he puts out, even though he's a former professor of mine, J.P. Moreland. J.P. Moreland has a book he co-authored, and it's called, I'm going to have to look it up now. I thought it was one of the best, most helpful introductions to philosophy that I have ever read. Oh, yeah. I remember what it is now. Okay. I love the book title as well. Philosophy Made Slightly Less Difficult, A Beginner's Guide to Life's Big Questions by Garrett DeWeese and J.P. Moreland. And actually, both of those men were my profs at Talbot. I don't agree with all their directions they take, but sometimes I think Reformed people like me are too hard on non-Reformed people. And if they do good work, just use their discernment. You're going to be okay, This is a really good book. I love the way they wrote it. I love the way they did it. I love the title. The men are very brilliant. You said Basic Philosophy. That is a great book, I think. Another one that's a little bit different, maybe different than what you're asking, it's actually called What's Your Worldview? What's Your Worldview? And the weird thing is, because you said basic, so I'm going real basic, but these are good books. It's an interesting book where you ask, it's like a choose your own adventure. You answer a question and then you go to a page based upon that, but it helps compare and contrast worldviews. And it's written by a precept brother, so he did that on purpose. It's called What's Your Worldview? An Interactive Approach to Life's Big Questions by James Anderson. Those are two I'd recommend right there. And one more for logic, I would recommend, let me see here. Let me make sure I get the title right. You said basic, so I'm going real basic here. It's called Biblical Logic and Theory and Practice, Refuting the Fallacies of Humanism, Darwinism, Atheism, and Just Plain Stupidity by Joel McDermott. Biblical Logic. Pick that book up, and you will be good. Misty Richards says, yes, my 14-year-old is reading that book by Bahnsen. All right. Eric Gideon, I got to tell you, I don't like your passive-aggressive attitude. I'm going to time you out. If mods time Eric Gideon out, it's my fault. You're not the one doing it. Come back, and if you want to ask your question again, I'll look at it. I didn't see your question, and I don't appreciate, there's all these people in this live chat, and someone coming on, you're going to make me get my Sam Shamoon on here. Of course my question was skipped. This is a relevant issue. Of course it was skipped. Look, I'm just reading questions off the screen. There's a lot of questions here. Don't do that. So go ahead and time Eric out, and if you want to come back with a better attitude after you've been timed out, then we can talk, okay? If not, then peace. Silvano Lopez, thoughts on politics and how Christians should vote. Not going to tell anyone how to vote like that, but I can say this. How about instead of thought, I'll recommend a book. Politics According to the Bible by Wayne Grudem. Not saying you're going to agree with everything or whatever, but it's hard to find a book more systematic, comprehensive, biblical, and covers a lot of the important issues. Again, not rocking with everything. I'm probably going to take heat if people even, whatever. But I think that's a good book. Wayne Grudem, Politics According to the Bible. I think it'll help you think through some of the big issues, That's all I'll say for that now. Maybe if people really want to push me on that, I can talk more about later, okay? We'll see that. Who played John B. in the play you were in back in the day? Sorry, I can't remember the name of the play. Whoa. Wow. I see your name in Greek is Petra, by the way, so I'm just going to call you Petra. Wow, Petra, that is a fantastic question. So Petra, what it is oh man, he doesn't like being a. John B was a Christian R&B kind of folk. He was almost like a male Lauryn Hill, and I don't mean that Lauryn Hill's amazing. It's just, played a guitar, sang, but he also danced and rapped and beatboxed. Just was an artist, one of the most amazing talents I've ever met in my life. His name is Brian Kilgore. And again, don't agree with all his theology or politics, since you brought that up. Actually, he's my buddy, but we don't agree on all our politics. But he is an amazing person. If we ever did The One, that's the name of it, by the way, the play you're asking about, Petra. If we ever did it again, we could never replace him. Now, if we ever did it again, we'd have to find somebody because he wouldn't do it again. But I got to tell you, he was such a singular talent. Out of all of us, he was the most irreplaceable. He's just a total irrepressible talent. Amazing. One of the funnest people to ever work with on doing arts like that you could ever imagine. Because the explosive creativity this man had was just contagious. You could not contain it. My favorite song in that play to this day is, "Do you want some cornbread? Hey, with a little butter on it, yeah." Killed that song. He killed that song. So that's Brian Kilgore. He doesn't do music anymore. Very difficult to find his music anymore. He used to have some of it online. Dennis O, do you smoke weed? I'll tell you, Dennis O, I've got a lot of problems. I'm an imperfect person in 100 ways and all that. But believe it or not, I have never actually smoked weed at all. So no, I don't smoke weed. I've never actually smoked weed. Doesn't mean I'm good. We all have different struggles, okay? But that's not one of them for me. I've been around it because, I'd have unsaved friends. I'd be trying to witness to them. They'd be doing their thing. And now you're always around it, right? And whatever. But I've been around it a lot, hip-hop shows. But I'm talking about kind of up close and personal, like when you first learn how to drive and one of your friends wants to go cruise and you're just driving around this old, Buick Electra or something, and one of your friends ends up start smoking weed. Well, it's your friend from the neighborhood. They know you're a Christian. Hey, you want some? No. Hey, I got to do something. Can you hold it? Okay, I'll hold it for a second. Now, this is going back to when I'm like 18 or something like that, or whatever age. But no, never smoked it. And even when I was in those close proximity situations, never got a contact buzz or anything like that. So no. Aloha to you, Mark Shark from Hawaii as well. Really enjoy and hope you do more vids on Mormonism. Mark, I'm doing an interview on Mormonism tonight, although I don't know if it's live. I don't know the answer if it's going to be live or it's going to air later. It's called Outer Brightness, I think is the name of the podcast. It's a play off the outer darkness motif that Mormons have. And I'm doing another one with a brother who just contacted me recently, although I forgot the name of that ministry. So apparently the recent stuff I did on Mormonism kind of sparked up a reaction with some people. It looks like we might be doing some more on Mormonism here. We will find out here. We'll do it. Deanie said, I love John B. Well, yeah. Niles Guy says, howdy. Night Nat says, hi. Hey, hi. Yes, Niles Guy. Hey, Vocab, did you hear last night that Israelites kept calling Sam, harassing and threatening him? It was crazy. Yeah, Sam's met his match, right? It's, what's that old show? Hold on. Stead and Nacy? What is it? Wait, there's some old show where they always fought. Nancy, and Ted. I can't remember. There's some old show. I never watched it, but it's kind of like, what's that other show with Michael? War of the Roses? I don't know. Anyways, what I'm saying is, I told Sam about the particular Hebrewites who were messing with him. So I didn't know about last night, but I knew that was happening. I know what they're doing. They're just such clout chasers. Honestly, they really are, these particular guys. So they're doing that with Sam, blah, blah, blah. And I told Sam how they are and their tactics, so he understood real quick. He got informed, and he ain't going to take the bait or whatever. But if they want to come on his platform and get some real smoke, and I'm talking about real smoke, Sam said he'll oblige him on that. But my prediction is they won't come on and get some real smoke because, honestly, they're cowards and they want the home team advantage. But Sam and I, since you brought it up, are working on a debate on the Trinity versus two Hebrew Israelites who call themselves Christian Hebrew Israelites or something like that, I guess. I am not trying to hurt Vocab. Hey, I don't feel hurt, bro. I can take a lot, I love you. I love you too. As a Christian sister. Oh, well, okay. Hey, shout out to you. Very much, even though I don't agree with with opinion on Calvinism. It's all good. You don't have to. We can still be friends and you can still be down and hopefully support. I mean, the information's right there. Patreon.com/vocab, streamlabs.com/vocab alone. If you do it right now, it's going to go ding. So go ahead and support, even if you don't agree. Please. And, you know what I'm saying? Definitely you want to do that. Spazzy Jazzy, thoughts on David eating the Quran? I'm like 98% on board, but one thing that makes me hesitate is do not repay evil for evil. What do you think? I got to tell you, I personally would never eat the Quran, and one thing is, I'm trying to go on a diet, and I've cut out cannoli, and I've cut out Quran as well, so I would not do that myself. Yep, cornbread. Yeah, you know the song. Travis says, I really hope Vocab and Aaron Shafawaloff do more stuff together. I got to tell you, Aaron is the man. That dude, man, I love Aaron, man. He's so down. I got another show I did with him I need to put back up. It's called Salt Lake City Evangelism, and I talk about how he witnessed out on the streets to the Mormons in Salt Lake, and I was so impressed watching him in action. I just felt like an amateur. This man... he is one of the most legit brothers you are going to find. And he knows a lot. Dude is smart, on passion, fire, man. He's pretty epic, man. I have backslidden. How can I come back? Well, in reference to Israel, Yahweh says he loves the backslider. And the warning passages in Hebrews are meant to scare you. Straight up, I'll go ahead and say it. Into recognizing that you do not want to experience judgment from the living God, and pray that the Lord rekindles your love for him. And you need to immediately plug yourself into a community church, and I don't think you need to go broadcast everything to everybody, but there may be a few people you need to find that you can trust, that you need to have personal conversations with, and I don't mean me because I'm not in your community. I'm here on the internet. And you got to be careful who you tell stuff to these days. But 1 John 2 says, confess your sins one to another, not the way the Catholics do it, not like that. But just know that that's part of the process sometimes. And just know that there's a process there. But the prodigal son is real. And that father who hugged him is real. The prodigal son did his father dirty. And yet, that father saw him from afar. Why did he see him from afar? I think that's because he was looking down that road. And he didn't wait for that son to walk to him. He ran to him, as the picture the Bible gives. Throws his arms around his neck, that kind of hug. And throws a party for him. My man, The Truth, Christian rap artist, he has a good song about this, about a backslider coming back into the community, back into the fold, recognizing their sin, and it's a song that celebrates it. It's not a sad song. It's like, hey, it's a party. You're back. I forget what album it was on, but man, that's such a beautiful song, and I love the way he portrayed it that way. So yes, 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 and yes. Thank you. Appreciate that, Crusader Sword. So Banda Lopez says we need a calendar. So I do too much, and I've got a lot coming out, and also the calendar changes a lot. I don't have anything like that. I can tell you what, we have different social media, and we try to make announcements on there. Basically, what I recommend people to do is just follow us on everything, follow Instagram, Street Apologist, and at Vocab Malone. Facebook, same thing. I have a Snapchat. I've kind of neglected that, though. Have a TikTok, even put some stuff on there. What's the other thing? Do a little bit on Twitter for Street Apologists as well. You sub to all those, plus the channel, plus the backup channel, Street Apologist, youtube.com/Street Apologist. You're going to kind of find out what's going on, and there are changes that happen, It is what it is. The calendar, make sure you look at upcoming live streams. It's on the YouTube page, and make sure you look at the thing that says upcoming premieres. That would help you, I think. Covey says, no smoke, but I've had a question for a while. How has the work of Michael Heiser not made a bigger impact on all views on theology? Like BHI, for example, seems so small when compared to the Heavenly Fam. A few things, Covey. One is that Heiser hasn't convinced everybody. So certainly he's had an impact with his understanding of things, right? No denying that. But he has not convinced everybody. And, no theologian, no biblical, they're not flawless. And so, no one has a perfect case. Heiser definitely is probably, as far as his viewpoints, made some of the best cases. Some things I think are easier to swallow and recognize, and other things that he talks about, honestly, a lot of people find quite eccentric and kind of search for the scriptures for and wonder if they're really there. And then sometimes that's where these extra biblical sources come in, and there's kind of a debate about what's a proper way to utilize them. And so there's a lot of discussion to be had, And the other thing is, it's not just the biblical case. There's also a war against people who don't believe the supernatural. So on one hand, if you don't think there's a bunch of Elohim running around in heaven, I'm kind of simplifying it, that doesn't mean you don't believe God and all that, but there's other people who just kind of deny the supernatural realm altogether, and so they're kind of like, not really. So he's trying to have more of an impact with the school he's starting up in Florida and continuing to do online stuff, and he certainly has an outsized influence, I would actually say, to be honest. He's, for one kind of guy, has done a lot. Now, I've worked with him. I wouldn't want to debate him. I don't agree with all his stuff. I mean, sometimes I just kind of listen and scratch my head, to be honest. And then I find people who are kind of fanboys and fangirls, and they seem to swallow everything without any discernment. So I find myself not in either of those positions. I find people who are just knee-jerk reaction against him. I definitely couldn't do that. I always want to hear him out. I want to respect him. He's an amazing mind. Always has interesting perspectives, knows a lot about a lot. So even if you don't agree, hearing him out is an interesting thing to do, to say the least. So it's a long-term process. You know what I mean? It's people aren't going to topsy-turvy everything that quick. And also, the question is, has he fully made the case? And, there's some debating there, I thought that exposing the false doctrine was tonight. By the way, I see it was rescheduled for the Sunday. Yeah, Tony Gordon, what happened is the brother who was scheduled tonight, he got caught up in work, so wasn't able to complete what we were going to do. And I switched to the smoke room. That way you guys weren't left without anything. Nat says, have you ever had dreams or visions? Well, I've certainly had dreams. Visions are interesting. Is a vision something that you have when you're awake? And is it something that you see inside or outside? It seems to be something when you're awake, and it seems to be sort of intramental from what I can tell. If that's a vision, I don't think I've had a vision. Now, I've pictured stuff in my mind, but is that what the Bible would see as a vision? I don't think so. There's some dream, obviously, is a little more objective. You're asleep and have, this stuff happening, right? Yes, I have. Does that mean they're theologically significant? They might be, but does that mean I think I have the gift to interpret them? No. And I think most of the people who are into the dream interpretation stuff, almost to a person that I've met them, they're off. They start doing weird things like color association and symbols that are not biblically based or very tenuous, to say the least. And they start going off into nether realms and la-la land and basically sounding like New Agers with a biblical twist, to be frank with you. And I understand they satisfy people's curiosity. Everybody wants to think they're having an important dream. But I think it's problematic, most of the people I see. Now, I'm a continuationist. And what that means, Nat, is I do believe the Holy Spirit still gives the miraculous gifts. I don't believe it's an identical situation as during the inscripturation process. But I am a cautious, conservative, charismatic in that sense. Open, but very cautious. It's not necessarily normative. It's not to be demanded or necessarily expected. But I definitely also wouldn't want to say it's impossible. But I don't even know if I've really met anyone I think legitimately I could say, that person's like a modern-day Joseph. I've met a lot of sketchy characters, to be frank with you. And I think we got to be really careful with those things, because God may be telling you something, or it could be a very just kind of natural process, very natural process. Okay, good, not a creationist. I'm not sure what you meant by, you mean cessationist. Yes, I'm not a cessationist, Nat. I grew up Pentecostal. I am not as Pentecostal as my upbringing, though. I'll tell you that right now. And I sometimes debate my Pentecostal brothers and sisters about things like second baptism, and is tongue speaking available to all? For example, I think there's some problems in the Pentecostal paradigm, especially as they go through Acts. But nonetheless, I'm not a cessationist, no. It'd be very similar to the view Wayne Grudem holds. The best book on that he has is called Prophecy in the New Testament. Dang it, I forget everything now. Just look up Wayne Grudem Prophecy, something like that. You'll find it. It's a really good book. MP, that's good to hear, Vocab. If you were a cessationist, I would have unsubscribed. LOL. Well, I hope you're joking, because I'm eventually going to have a view you don't agree with, MP. I guarantee it. Because I'm outspoken, I try not to shove things down people's throat, but once I have something, I'll say what it is. You know what I mean? And someone's always not going to like it. And I already know that going in, and it is what it is. So you're probably going to eventually unsubscribe if you really feel that way. But I would encourage you not to be that way. Not because of me, just anybody in general. Like, that's almost like cutting off any outside sources. You know what I mean? And cessationist arguments, they're not as simple as people say. People run around talking about cessationists don't believe in the Holy Spirit. No, that's not what they're thinking. That's not what they're saying. Their arguments are more sophisticated, and we should at least understand what they're saying, why they're saying it that. You draw the line with cessationism. Okay. Yeah, my phone switched to creation. I got you. Yeah, I got you, Nat. Storm Nexus. So that's a view. Okay, that's a view. Well, calling people false prophets. See, that's where you're going too far. Even J.I. Packer, who was a cessationist, said, look, whatever they're doing, it could still be beneficial to them, even if it is gibberish. Calling someone a false prophet, because you're just going too far. This is where people start dividing and debating and going too far on things like this. I think it's problematic. I'm going to unsub. And then the other guy says, you're a false prophet. I mean, guys, really? See, this is why... Whatever. Guys, listen, I'm looking down the comments. They're coming fast and furious. I have skipped some of you. Let's do a new thing where if you're asking a question, put Q before it, capital Q with the colon, and then put a question mark at the end of your sentence. If you do that, that's going to help me because I'm trying to triage all these, and it's very difficult. And so I'm actually just looking at the bottom one and grabbing it. So I'm getting some duplicates here. What's your favorite approach to take when doing apologetics? Well, I'm a presuppositionalist, Benjamin. I don't know if that has resonance with you. But my favorite presup is John Frame. And so, if you came back to me and said, what's another apologetics book? I would tell you to get John Frame's book called Apologetics and his other one that's like Making a Case for God or something like that. It's a very small book. He put it out recently. Everything by him, that style of presup I find to be the most biblical and stuff like that. And so I would be presuppositional, but that doesn't mean the stereotype of a presupper or anything like that. I think that's a very flexible approach within reason. Sister Sleepy says, I recently found out that I'm not a Middle Eastern person, since the ancient land of Israel was actually in Namibia somewhere. Sister Sleepy, I almost always get your jokes and humor. I don't get this one, but hey, I think it's over my head. So I'm not always a smarter guy, DRC Pachowski says, question, are you a pre-trib rapture guy? No, I am not. So I do not believe in a secret rapture doctrine. Biblically, I do not find the rapture in the places where people who believe in the rapture say it is. There is a Greek word that is harpazio or harpazo that means snatching up, but when you read it in context, it's pretty evident and plain. It's just saying when Jesus comes back. What I mean is there's no separate rapture. There's a second coming. There's not a third coming. Because if Jesus comes back, snatches everybody, goes back to heaven, he does a giant U-turn, the second coming is actually the third coming. You know what I mean? So that's not the only reason I don't hold to it. I'm just kind of working this out. The First Thessalonians passage, when you walk through it, it does not sound like a secret rapture at all. It sounds like a big, massive procession, almost like a royal event of a conquering king coming back to establish his kingdom as it should be. That's the second coming. The secret rapture is usually held by dispensationalists, and it's usually basically so they can get the church out of the way to have God deal with Israel. And I do not think that's a biblical paradigm. I did a debate on this recently, and people are going to unsubscribe because of this. I'm sorry. I do not hold that Israel is God's chosen people, because God's chosen people are the elect, and the elect of all people, types and stripes, read 1 Corinthians 1. And so what it is with that is you have a situation where the body of God's people is the ecclesia, the called out ones, the church, Travis says, I'm millennial here, whoop, whoop. I flirt with amillennialism, but I'm historic premill. I know there's challenges with almost every eschatological position, and I could be convinced of Amil probably pretty easily, and maybe one day I will change, but for now I'm historic premill or classic or whatever. Nat says, I really hate dispensationalism. Well, why? Why hate it? I mean, you can disagree. I don't get everyone's so hard on everything. Nat, I really hate dispensationalism. Why? Why do you gotta hate it? Besides, the new dispensationalists are a lot more thoughtful. If you read Craig Blasing now and Darrell Bach, you may not agree with them, but you know, they're smart. Let me show you a book. It's called The New Christian Zionism. I don't agree with this book. Fresh Perspectives on Land, Israel and the Land. However, the people who wrote this are really thoughtful, smart, caring biblical people. So I'm still edified by this book, even though the essence of its argument I don't find compelling. And I think the progressive dispensationalists have done a good job at getting the position away from the old, Schofield reference Bible notes type dispensationalism. And I don't know if everyone's aware of that. And progressive dispensationalism, which is kind of the current version, is not so bad. I'm still not one, but give him a chance, That's all I'm saying. I don't think a debate on the rapture should divide the body of Christ, says Basic. Well, yeah, I think when it comes to future events, humility really is in order, more so than past issues, And I want to say past issues, I mean the big things that are clear. But when we talk about future stuff, we should get the big picture and then be hesitant and humble, I think. Vocab, can you arrange a debate with Black Hebrew Israelite prophets who will be interesting to watch? Well, almost all of them think they're prophets in some sense. And I've been debating them all last week, and I'm actually debating a whole bunch more this next week coming up. So I got a ton of debates coming up with these guys. Actually, since you said that, let's go ahead and announce these debates here. Ready? Monday, October 26th, Vocab Malone will be debating Sam Addison on the Debate Talk for You channel hosted by Orthodox Moore on this. This is the topic he proposed, by the way. Does the Bible teach justification sola fide, by faith alone? So I'll be taking the affirmative. He'll be taking the negative. Tuesday, October 27th, same place, same moderator. What's the right view of Acts 26? Hebrew Israelite or Christian? And that's where we're going to walk through Acts 26. This particular group is a One West group. They call themselves the High Exalted Warriors. And the man who contacted me is Ram Gad Al-Gabarayim, and I'll be debating him, maybe one of his people, on that question. October 29th, I'm working on a debate. I mentioned the one with Sam I'm working on, but I'm also working on a debate with Solar Mind. Remember the guy who kicked me out for not being black enough out of his channel? Well, now G-Con's saying the guy wants a debate, apparently. And he'll probably curse me out and yell the whole time, and I don't even care. Now, who knows what his positions are, but I'm willing to do it if he really wants the smoke. Then I'm working on a preliminary debate on another debate league channel I found. It's called The Source. And here's what's interesting. Let me tell you guys something. I know everyone doesn't agree with everything I do. I get it. And I know I'm not perfect. I'm not always consistent. Who is, right? But some of my approaches people have problems with. And no one does it perfect. But let me tell you something. The direct approach, trying to keep it light and be funny, but also being bold, that I've displayed recently, that's, it's in there and it comes out when it needs to come out. I can't tell you how many Hebrew Israelites have contacted me after that, specifically the stuff with Berean and the debate with Elder Yarah. They have contacted me saying, I respect what you do, and I want to do something with you because I think you would be a good fit to have a discussion because I think it'd be edifying. See, every Hebrew Israelite's not the sensational character that you tend to see. You tend to see the sensational guys. It's kind of it's a weird thing the way that happens. And a lot of the ones who complain about me are the Hebrew Israelites who basically are always in their feelings. Maybe you should take a softer approach. And, this kind of, they're trying to control me is what they're trying to do, but making me feel bad. I'm not going to fall for it, by the way, right? I've been manipulated enough in my life, okay? So check this out. These dudes see that, and they're like, I respect the way you approach stuff. Let's get down. Let's get down. And so I've actually had an increase in offers, not a decrease in offers. So to all the Hebrews like haters out there who hate me and want to chop my head off, literally, I know you exist. this program to keep vocab off the black platforms or whatever, it's not working. It's not going to work because some people can see through your BS straight up, and they can see, this dude, whatever he is, he's real. Okay, he's doing this thing. It's real. And they invite me on because they recognize there could be some good build there. So shout out to those types of dudes, So, I think it's really mean the way you haven't done a boom boom room in forever. Me trying to control you. Well, check it out. I like your name, by the way. It's really all David Wood, but a lot of it is quarantine coronavirus. And the coronavirus situation kind of put David in a different frame of mind, doing different things, and he's kind of still on that track. So we'll see, but that's David's stuff. I'm the team member on there, but he is the leader. It really is what David will do. Part of it's my fault because, I don't want to get back into my Muhammad costume because I'm getting, I'm gaining some weight, and so it hurts when I put on the dynamite. So I'm not banging down his door to do it. Jack Hopkins, how do you feel about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict? You're trying to get me real in trouble here. Israelis don't deserve the land, in my opinion. Oh, okay. So here's the thing. I am not a Christian Zionist. A Christian Zionist is someone who makes a theological rationale for the Jews to be in the land of Israel. I am prudential in my argumentation for the right of Israel to exist. So I am not pro-Zionist. I'm anti-Zionist because of my covenant theology. However, I am pro-Israeli. I get it. Some people can't handle these kind of positions. It is what it is. Now, when I say pro-Israeli, I mean in the same way I might say I'm pro-American. Sure, we deserve to be judged and all that, but basically look around the rest of the world, okay? What I mean by that is, take your pick. Look around the Middle East, take your pick. Israel is one of the few countries we don't have to worry about sending nukes after us. Now, Israel would do it if they had to, trust me. But it's nice to have a friend and ally in the Middle East besides the Saudis. Are they really our friends? So, I think you can also make a historical argument for Israel's right to be there. I do think you can make a historical argument. You don't have to make a theological argument for their right to be there. And I think you can make a political argument. And to be honest, in a way, the fact that they are there is partially an argument for their right to exist, meaning they're already there in the land. And the way that the land is acquired is a much more complex process than is sometimes spoken of. And so I find that simplistic view, I don't know your view, I'm just saying, not helpful and not truthful. And so when you look into that, you say, there's a lot to this, okay? Does this mean Israel does everything perfect? No, come on, of course not. They've got 1,000 problems. 1,000, a million, okay, yeah. What country does it, though? So what do? Let's have an ally in the Middle East. If a two-state solution is possible, let's go for it. It doesn't seem like the other side is very interested in that, to be frank with you. But at the end of the day, Israel's got to do what they got to do to protect themselves. And America can only judge so much, because I'm going to tell you something about America. We try to an extent, but at the end of the day, when America says you're their ally, we're not always the best of friends to our friends. We leave them high and dry a lot of times because, change administrations or the American people run out of steam for the issue. And part of it we deserve. But what I mean is we shouldn't be putting our nose in all these people's businesses in the first place. And we shouldn't be making all these commitments to everybody in the first place. And so America, a lot of times, does not live up their commitments to their friends. And so Israel knows they're glad we're with them instead of against them, basically. But at the end of the day, they can't really count on us. You know what I'm saying? I'm speaking off the top of the head, okay? But this is my views here. We could talk more about it later if somebody wants to debate, whatever. Even this book I mentioned has a good little chapter, 2 chapters at the end for Israel's current situation. It's more political, historical. Yes, the new Real Talk Radio, Israel has the right to exist. We're talking about the state of Israel there, and that is what I said. I just said I don't make a theological case for it. What's your take on Freemasonry? Don't know a lot about it. Never been very interested in it. Can a biblical Christian be a member? From what I've seen, it's not a good thing to do. Are you going to hell if you're a member? I just don't think so. I just don't think it's that serious. People are going to be mad about it. Alex says, stop lying to yourself, Vocab. Early Israel has zero rights to exist. I will debate you. Okay, Alex, until you listen to my debate where I specifically say ethnic Israel is not God's chosen people in the 21st century, where I say it's the church, it's the ecclesia, until you understand my position, then it's not going to work. Nate, with the donation to Straight Apologist. My man, you're the first one. Thank you, brother. What do you mean they have zero right to exist? What do you want to destroy Israel? Or what do you mean by that? My kingdom is not of Jesus' kingdom is not of this earth. I agree. John 18. See, you're mixing and matching issues. It's just like, does Iran have a right to exist? I mean, I wish they were a little bit different, but yes, Iran has a right to exist. Persia should be able to be. Does Mexico? Yes. Does Canada? Well, maybe not, but you get the idea. What are you talking about? I didn't say, see, you don't even know the position. I'm going to tell you right now, people like you irritate me. You want to come on, debate me, don't show a picture. You don't even know what I believe. You don't know what you're talking about. No one said I didn't say they're the elect unless they're believers. That's different than do they have the political right to exist. You don't even understand the issues. Oh, I'm sorry, you're just a moron and an idiot. I don't usually say that, but you're out. Tell them to go to Russia. They're not Semites. Okay, you're just Ashkelon. Oh gosh, I can't say it. Okay. Please time out this person. First of all, I think you're anti-Semitic. I think you're racist, and I don't want to talk to you right now. Come back later and stop being... Get a picture to your face, first of all. You anti-Semites love that and have no pictures. You love that they have these non-counts. You're projecting Vocab. Oh, you know what? Why am I talking to this person? Block this person. Block this person. Block this person. You're not a Semite. Whoever's talking right now, I guarantee you're not a Semite. You're full of it, whoever you are. Whoever this is not a Semite. Guarantee this person's not a Semite. Guarantee it. I was the only one the moderator timed out. Vocab does not answer all questions on his Ask Your Questions live stream. Oh, you're the only one. Oh, no. Seriously? You're right, I don't answer all questions. Look how many people are in here. I can't answer everyone's questions. There's too many. You got to put at the bottom, you hit a question, and stop whining. Time this person out again, please. If you come back and complain one more time, Eric, get in, you're blocked, and you're gone. Peace out. I'm not perfect. I don't see everything. I do see whining and complaining, though. And so when I see that, I don't want tears on the dance floor. So... Vocab for the win. Air horn. Oh, you like the air horn, do you? You like the air horn? Is that what you say? You give me the air horn? Okay. Oh, jeez. Who is this person? You guys? Look, take it light. It's kind of chill. It's kind of easy. You guys are funny. You come in here whining and complaining and all this, and then godly response. I mean, no one ever said I was mature. Solving the race problem. You destroyed Elder Yara in that debate. Good work bringing out the truth. Well, just so you know, I see you're talking like that. If you notice, I never go around after a debate or before a debate. I'm going to win. I just never do that, and I wouldn't do that with this. Rocks! $10 to Streamlabs. Everyone, streamlabs.com/vocab alone. It's what you got to do when YouTube demonetizes you. Thank you very much, Rocks. You get the... Thank you. Well, black people in America are not Israelites. That's kind of... I know what you're saying, but Mr. Phil Fox donating. Whoa, with another... Oh, what? Oh, yeah, what's going on here? Yeah, I'm taking calls. Call in Skype. We actually don't have that much time left. Call in Skype at Vocab Malone. It's on the thing. Call me in. Yeah, come on in. Come on in. 3, 2, 1. All right, brother. What you got? How you doing today?
What's up, Vocab?
Not much, man.
Do you see me? I'm a Semite. You said I'm so full of myself. I'm not a Semite.
Who
I'm
are you?
Lebanese, pal. I'm a Semite.
Are you Alex?
I'm Alex. I'm Alex. How are you?
Okay, I probably believe you then. I'm sorry.
So you're lying to yourself? Admit it. Just admit it, brother.
No, I'm not.
Like, I do believe brother in Christ. I do, and I want you to know one thing.
Yeah.
I look up to your Hebrew Israelite stuff. You're awesome there, and no one could take that away. I have learned personally, but I disagree with you that the modern state of earthly Israel should exist, and we could discuss that as humans.
Okay, tell me what to do with the Jews then.
Okay, they could have went anywhere. Obviously, I do not condone any killing or any of that stuff.
Tell me where they could have went. Tell me where
Russia. They could have went to Russia. Most Jews there. They could have went to America. They could have went to so many places. They could have had full peace in Germany and lived there.
Do you know?
But they had to take the Palestinians' houses.
Did America accept boatloads of Jews during World War II when they were trying to escape? Yes or no?
They were the second people to accept the state of Israel.
No. Boatloads of Jews. Boatloads of Jews from Europe. Did America accept or reject boatloads of Jews who tried to come to America during this time of persecution? We turned them away. We turned them away.
They still got there.
No, they did. They didn't get here. They had to go back. A lot of them got killed.
What? They got accepted. The state. They wanted America wanted the state of Israel because they wouldn't go to America. But that doesn't solve the problem. America might be wrong there. You ever take the ego down a bit? You know what I mean? America might be wrong there. That accepting them would have been a good thing.
No. Hold on. You're totally missing the argument, bro. Hold on. We gotta stop here a second. You said they could have went anywhere. I said, tell me where, because my point is I'm contending that you're wrong. They can't go anywhere because the world is full of anti-Semites. They can't go anywhere, okay? And then my point was, you said,
can we get something
no.
off the table?
I already know what you're gonna say. It's kind of a trope. Most people understand the definition of what we're talking about here. You can, and by the way, you can be a Semite and still be anti-Semitic. So it's a null and void argument. But check this out.
But I'm not anti-Semitic.
You sound like it to me, but we'll give you a chance. But check this out, bro. Check this out. You said they could go anywhere, and what I was telling you is they couldn't go anywhere. And I gave you a very real example. They got turned away from America numerous times. I'm talking about boatloads of refugees. Look it up. This happened.
I have a question.
So here's my point. What do you do with the Jews you don't like? Why can't they have a governing self-land?
Kill and rob other people's land? Yes or no?
Okay. What do you know? What do you know about how the Jews acquired that land?
I know because I have family that's Palestinian. I have family that's Christian Palestinians. Actually, I'm Christian.
Okay.
We never converted from Islam. We've always been Christian.
I know. I used to go to an Arabic church. I know many people like you.
That's awesome. That's awesome, dude. And that's awesome. And if you would know that the Palestinians have been injustice and it's affected the other countries around it.
Yes. Now let's go back though, because you said it's not right for them to steal land. Okay. True or false? True or false? A lot of the land in Israel, the way it got into the possession of Jewish people is they bought it from
No, not most of it. No, that's wrong.
See, you're wrong. See, the fact is, this is true. They got it from absentee. They got it from absentee Arab landlords. They didn't steal it. They didn't steal it.
You're lying to yourself, Vocab. You're lying. Can I say something?
Well,
Thank you for not muting me. I really appreciate that, by the way.
For what?
I really appreciate that. Thank you for not muting me like other people.
I haven't muted you, but stop telling me I'm lying to myself. Because
you are, just like you did, because they didn't.
Okay.
My family, I have family that have paperwork of their houses that were forced with guns out of their houses to give to the Jews and their lands that they lived on and had farms.
Let's stop. So you made your point. Now, here's what happened. Here's exactly what happened. In case after case after case, after the land was bought, the people had tenants on their land, and it was up to the Jews since the Arab folks were absentee. The Jews had to remove the tenants because it was no longer their land. So since it was not the absentee landlord who had sold the land, it was no longer their land. What had to happen? The tenants who worked. Let me just finish, because okay, listen.
Michael Brown's educating you. Stop lying to yourself. Honestly,
listen, brother. You don't tell me where I got my information from, because I didn't get it from Michael Brown. So you don't know what you're talking about. This is a study. I don't care what I sound like. This is a study of history that I've done, okay? Because listen, people probably mute you because you interrupt them. You're continually interrupting me.
I'm not going to let you lie to yourself.
Okay, then you are going to get muted. Then you are going to get muted. Do you understand? Control yourself or be muted. Those are your two options, okay? I have no desire to have a shouting match with somebody, okay?
Okay, go on.
Okay. The fact is, lots of the land, I didn't say every single piece, but we're talking about a large majority, can you control yourself, man? Control yourself.
Majority or not?
This is your last chance. You're going to let me finish or you're gone. I'm just going to finish and you're going to complain, but I gave you multiple chances. You keep on interrupting me. I can't even finish a sentence with you. This is not the way to represent what you believe. The same is that I sat under an Arabic pastor from Bethlehem, and I've been under men from Nazareth. So I have experience and understanding in this. So I'm actually sympathetic to your cause. You're creating an enemy where you could have an ally, but you lack wisdom because you're emotional in this. So if you would just chill for a second, because I'm not a Zionist. So look, here's the deal. Lots of it was done by selling and buying, which is legal and okay. And people said, hey, I'm not there. These guys are giving me a lot of money. I don't care what's going on with the rest of the thing. But there was people working the land. They did have to be removed because they wanted to stay there. Their view was, hey, we've worked this land for 50 years. Why are you going to come in and take us off? Well, it was their land now, so they were allowed to move them off. This happened in case after case. Now, I'm not sure why you're saying that's not true. The fact is the records exist to prove it. We're talking about sales of land, then the tenants being removed, which is a legal action. You don't have to have someone work the land. The Jews wanted to work the land themselves by and large. They didn't want the tenant farmers. So you had a real issue there. So how, and you can say Michael Brown, I didn't know Michael Brown said that. This is just a fact of history. This is just something you read because it's there when you try to get both sides of the story. Now, what is the problem with that?
You good? I'm going to appeal to what you talked about.
Yeah, and I'll try not to make faces like an immature brat like you did the whole time.
I'm not an immature brat.
The whole time you're like,
I'm just trying to tell you that you're trying to say that it's the objective truth. That's the only thing that bothers me, Vocab, is that I know family directly. It's not emotional. Is that we have the historical record of their land being robbed. And no, the majority of it wasn't Jews, bro. There's actually been Jews and like European Jews living there in peace since after the Crusades. So it's not even been, it's been way longer than that. Why have they lived there? Because it's the anti-Zionist Jews. It's the ones who claim that they don't like the state of Israel and things. And they're as European Jew as they can. And they believe that theologically and politically as well. So but
do you know what those
robbing the land? Let me finish.
Do you know what those Orthodox Jews want? They don't want something you want. They want Israel under a theocratic rule. So you're acting like they're your ally.
Not Israel. They don't want Israel. They want Palestine.
No.
They throw a Palestinian flag.
No.
You want me to show you a picture?
No. I know what you're talking about. Here's the thing.
What?
Those Orthodox Jews who you're talking about, it doesn't have anything to do with their ethnicity. It has to do with their theological beliefs. They want a theocracy, so they view Israel as basically as an imposter state because it's secular. So you're acting like they're an ally for the Palestinian cause.
But they don't want that flag. They don't want that flag with the hexagram. They don't want it.
The flag is irrelevant to the way that the real issue is the theocracy, brother. That's the real issue.
But
they're not your. So don't act like they're your ally in a Palestinian
like they're my friend or they're my allies.
They are not
I'm just
your.
Acting.
So what I'm saying is you're trying to act as if it's something it's not. I'm telling you, I spoke about the people you're talking about, and I know what you're saying, but they're not an ally to the Palestinian cause at the end of the day, simply because they're anti-secular Israel.
I'm not saying.
So let's just have
allies.
I'm just saying balance.
They're anti the Israel. That's what I'm saying.
No, they're not anti-Israel. They're anti-secular Israel.
No, they don't believe it should exist. They said that they should live under Palestinian rule like they did after the Crusades. Okay, look, let me get to the point.
When did they live under Palestinian rule?
What do you mean?
You said
when it was under Ottomans. There was Jews there.
You think that we should have a situation similar to when the Turks were in control of that area?
I do not. Of course
not.
Then
why are you bringing them up? Do you think the PLO should be in charge of Israel?
You're irrelevant from when we were speaking, and you're cutting me off, being a hypocrite from what you said.
I
don't like saying that's the objective truth.
When you bring up something, that's what happens.
Let me finish back to the
Should the PLO be in charge?
By them. I'm not going to have a shouting match with you like you said. Are you going to let me talk for a little bit, or you're scared of the truth, the objective truth?
Listen. Have you seen me debate people? I'm not scared of the truth, but
can I speak? Can you let me speak?
But listen, here's the deal. If you're on here and you bring up random points, I'm gonna conjecture.
You're the one deferring. I'm trying to get back to the whole.
Then don't bring up objectionable points in your main point. Just what's your main point?
Okay, my main point to your point, because we could talk about different points. I don't mind. It was that the majority wasn't legally bought, bro. It was under the British Empire. Not only were there forgeries that happened, but people got guns pointed to them. And the majority of them, not less than half, majority of them got guns pointed to them, and they were forced out of their lands and their houses. Now, the Jews who did have houses there, rightfully bought before World War II even, like I was telling you, for hundreds of years, they were living there in peace. And they're not even like, their Middle Eastern mix is like pretty diluted. Like and they were there in peace and people liked them. The only issue we had was probably the Ottoman rule. And those people don't even want the Israel, like the hexagram blue flag with the
what does that have to do with, what does that have to do with anything? What's on the flag?
I'm telling you that there's even Jews in that denomination, in that religion, don't even want it. But I'm telling you that people were forced out of their houses, and we have the legal documents. And it's been proved that there was forged documents to try to lie about them. Now, I don't know what pastor you're talking about. If you're talking to Pastor Joe, are you talking about Pastor Joe from
No.
the States? No.
Okay. What I'm saying is, so yes,
I might know them.
Okay.
I'm in tune with the community.
Excellent. What I'm saying is some of your perspectives I've heard before. I'm not saying I was under Middle Eastern folks who agreed with me 100%, but they also didn't have such a vitriolic perspective as yours. You have a vitriolic perspective. You literally said, well, just have the Jews go to Russia. You have a contradictory position because you just sit around talking about there's Jews who have been there for a long time, and yet you're telling the Jews to go to Russia.
But they're not subjugating people. They're not subjugating. Those people weren't subjugating.
Okay. So, are you saying if it was under the Palestinian rule, it wouldn't be When has there been a situation where Israel was under a Christian rule? Tell me the time.
Let's have it happen. Let the Christians.
No. I'll tell you the time.
It doesn't matter if it didn't happen
under the Crusades. That's the time that's when the Christians were in control of Jerusalem. So, do you want to go back to a Crusader kingdom?
Dude, I'm telling you that in this day and age, we have brothers and sisters in the triune God Christ, and then we have evangelical Protestants who I see as brothers in Christ, some of them because they're anti-Zionist, some of them, but the others helping pure Jews who are the reason who that our Messiah was crucified. He said their blood must be on them.
Pure
Obviously,
Jews?
there might be a prophecy that are going to happen. No,
bro,
not pure, but like
you are going all over here. Just slow down. You are going all over the map here. First of all, you said earlier that they're deluded, and they are. Almost everybody in the world is deluded, even the people in the Middle East who never left the Israel. Now you're talking about pure Jews, and you literally just did the medieval European anti-Semitic Christ killer trope. They're the ones who are responsible for killing Jesus. If you read Acts, no, I gotta finish, bro. No wonder you don't make any friends.
You're angry for me for cutting you off.
No wonder you don't make any friends. No wonder. Oh my goodness. You have a serious problem. Like
ADHD. I have ADHD. I'm sorry.
Okay. Look, jeez. You said now the pure Jews who are the ones responsible for killing Christ. That's literally what you just said. Now check this out. If you read Acts 2 and Acts 4, it says that Jew and Gentile alike conspired together to kill the Messiah. So you just bringing out the medieval anti-Semitic trope of the Jews killed Jesus is incredibly objectionable and theologically false. I understand you have a perspective, but what you're saying is literally
he's the sacrifice of the lamb. You
said to me, "Oh, hey, Michael Brown information," which I never consulted Michael Brown on any of the things I brought forth. What you're saying though literally sounds like PLO propaganda. You want to talk about the source of information? PLO. How can you be familiar with this situation and not know what the PLO is? I know what the full name. Do you know what the Palestinian Authority is?
Okay, yeah, the Liberation Organization. Okay, that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, like brother, I'm not sure how you can know what's going on if you don't know. What you're saying is literally. Do you know who was the main guy in charge of the PLO for the longest time?
It said Mahmoud Abbas or something. That's the chairman, founders, Arab League, and Ahmed Shukairi.
Yeah, and don't forget about President Arafat. Now, are you a supporter of Yasser Arafat's policies?
No, of course not. But you know how my dad's uncle was actually the private doctor forced to be the private doctor of Arafat and his crew. So he knows firsthand of saving Christians. Okay, and he would preach to us that the state of Israel is not the way of saving Christians. As much as maybe, for example, Muslims have tried to persecute us, Sunnis, not specifically Shias, but mostly Sunnis, tried to persecute us.
Brother,
he used to talk about how the occupation is 5 times worse. I'm not even joking,
brother.
And this is someone who saved Christians from Muslims.
I might move on in a second here, but let me tell you something that's actually sad about this conversation. I'm not even being funny. This is for real.
What's up?
If you understood my heart for Middle Eastern Christians, I don't think you would be approaching me this way. I think we can have a balance.
I don't understand it.
I've never been a pro-Zionist. I don't make a theological argument for Jews in the land. I am a new covenant guy. I hold that God's body of people are the ecclesia. You're not talking to a dispensationalist. You're not talking to a Michael Brownite. You're not talking to a DTS guy. You're talking about someone who's You're talking about someone who's set under Arabic pastors, who is willing to submit to them and hear them out and see a lot of beautiful things happen, especially in relationships to reaching out to Muslims. And you're treating me like an enemy. We have a different view about some of this.
Dude, I have an issue with you saying that the state of Israel should actually exist. It's all Palestine.
Brother,
the state of Israel
it already exists.
Israel, it's blasphemous. I don't care. Your theology has to do with your life. Politics and
exactly.
theology do mix.
Exactly.
Yes, they have to do with your life. So the state of Israel is not of this world, as the Lord Jesus Christ said. No. It's Palestine. It's
listen,
like his
listen.
apostle, Simon the Canaanite. He was even a Canaanite, bro.
You don't understand.
He called him a Canaanite.
You don't understand, though. You're talking to the wrong guy. I'm not an Israel-centric guy. And when you say state of Israel, the church is not the state of Israel. The church is the new Israel. The state of Israel is a distinct the state of Israel is a distinct political entity. And you can complain about it, and you sound a little bit like, the dictator of Iran wiped them off the map, ship them all to Russia. Which is not even their people, not even their land. I mean, you're saying, let's ship them off to Russia. Yeah, Russia's...
Most of them are in the States.
See, that again, how can you be familiar with the issues and think that everyone's a Russian Jew? That's only about 55 to 60% of modern-day Jewry, right?
That's most of them. And then the ones who aren't Russian Jews feel comfortable around them as well. So that's a majority.
Let me break it down. You just seem you seem like, I'm glad you have people connected, but you actually seem somewhat uninformed. Let me tell you what I mean by that. Don't take offense. Please listen. Yemenite Jews. Are you familiar with Yemenite Jews? Are you familiar with the Iraqi Jews, which are now called Baghdadi Jews? Now, let's just talk about the Iraqi Jews for just a second. The Iraqi Jews were there since the days of the Babylonian captivity in Iraq. Now, in modern-day Iraq, you can look the stats up. Put this in, brother. How many Jews are left in Iraq? You know the answer as of 2020? Last time I saw 4. 4. Now, this is what happens.
If they are, they're hiding.
This is what, or they're just super old people that they're like, you know what, we're not going to kill that one, let that old lady die. Seriously, I'm not joking. Now, here's
Yemen, it's like that.
Yeah, they're almost all gone, bro. Here's what I'm saying. Jews under Middle Eastern governments never works out for the Jew. The Jew has no safe place, no safe haven.
Even as a Christian Middle Eastern?
There's radical political differences even between Palestinian Christians and some of the Jewish Christians, and there's some real problems. Now, I recommend a book for you.
Did you just say Jewish Christians?
Yeah, Jewish Christians. You know they exist, right?
What do you mean Jewish Christians?
I mean, they're
just Christians.
No. Oh, no. So wait. You just said Palestinian Christians.
You think Messianic Jews is a thing?
You just said Palestinian Christians earlier. Now you have a problem with saying Jewish Christians? Help me understand this.
What do you mean Jewish Christians? Jews, real Jews, like from the tribe of Levi, the ones at the time of Jesus knew he's the Messiah.
Wait.
They're the followers of Christ.
Why are you associating Jews as from the tribe of Levi?
No, like the ones who officially knew Jesus was the Messiah, like they confirmed it, and they're the Jews from Moses and from Hebrews, the ancient Hebrews. Like we know they're
Why only the tribe of Levi? It doesn't make sense. Jew usually refers to the southern tribes anyway.
That was the priestly tribe. But there's the tribe of David and all that stuff,
Well, there's no tribe of David. There's a tribe of Judah that David's from. Again, there seems like there's... brother, you have a lack of familiarity with these issues. Let me show you a book here. It's called Come Let Us Reason Together. This is Baruch Meaz. He's a pastor there in Tel Aviv. He's a Calvinist brother. He's a Reformed brother. So he's not a dispensationalist. He doesn't think the state of Israel he's not a Zionist, is what I'm saying. Yet his church is there. And in this church, it's an international church. So he has Jewish Christians, which means a person who is ethnically Jewish who accepts Jesus. That's all that means, brother.
What's an ethnic Jew to you, bro? What's considered an ethnic Jew? Because in the Bible, the Old Testament, almost everybody's related to the Old Testament Jews except for these for Russians or Western. If now you're going to talk to me about Iraqi and even Lebanese Jews, those are barely Jews, bro. Those are mixed with Russian stuff.
So you brother, you've got a set of issues. I understand.
I don't.
Check this out. If you're going to bat for the persecution that the Palestinian Christians face, we can have a lot of solidarity on that. But once you start mixing in rabid conspiracy theories, which is literally what's happening here, once you start doing that, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose. I am dismissing your theories as very bad, very outdated. And when you start talking about Lebanese Jews or barely Jews, because you can say a similar thing. You can say a similar thing about many people in the Middle East because of the amount of conquering that's happened. But with any given modern Jewish population, you have 25 to 50% that DNA that goes back to the Levant.
Why don't Middle Easterns have Jews anyways? Is it not just because they're kicked out? It's because everybody knows Jesus is the Messiah, bro. Even Muslims, even like we believe different things with Muslims.
Why does that mean that wouldn't have
Jesus is the Messiah?
Bro, why would that mean?
Don't want to live around people who don't believe that, bro.
Oh, they don't want to live around people who wow. So
they're gonna come steal our land for it. They're gonna come steal our land. They haven't been there. They moved around. If you know the historical Jews, they have all been enslaved. If you've read the Bible, bro. Since you're so. By the way, your buddy who's in Tel Aviv, show me the book again. Show me the book, please.
Yeah.
Show me the book.
All right, I'm gonna put someone else on. This has been interesting.
What is that? A hexagram, right? What is that? Show me that in the Bible, bro.
Yeah.
Star of David.
Yeah.
Show me that in the Bible.
I've given the reason why.
Bro, if you're a Christian, you would not go for that hexagram.
Bro, I had to turn you down because you're going wild. That's cool. God bless. I got another caller coming up. Let me just say this to you, brother. You can't be a Christian and be an anti-Semite. Just like you can't be a racist and all kinds of other stuff. You can't be a Christian and be an anti-Semite. And so a lot of the stuff you said today was extremely problematic. All right, we got Jim Green. How you doing, my friend? What's going on, brother? Oh, man, you know I'm doing all right. I'm chilling. What's going on, man? Yes, it was. All right, tell me what you got, my friend.
Saw any apologists or theologists worth they saw should be willing to ask hard questions. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate that about you. And I didn't call for no other reason, man, but just to tell you, you know, that I know the position that you're in. I know you get attacked. I know that you're under a lot of assault, bro. Even behind the scenes, a lot of people don't see what you're doing, what's happening. I see it because I go through it. And I just came to just give you some encouragement, bro. Keep fighting the good fight, man. Appreciate stay on the front line, man. Stay fighting, bro. It's a hard fight, you know what I'm saying? But this is the fight that God has given us. I'm fighting the same fight, brother. I'm praying with you, and I'm hoping the best for you, bro. That's all I wanted to say, man.
Hey, man,
keep doing your thing, my brother.
I appreciate
I love you,
that.
bro.
Hey, Jim, I appreciate that. Seriously. And tell people about your platform and stuff like that you got.
Well, I do have a show. A talk show I've been doing for about 14 years called the New Real Talk Radio Show. It is a somewhat like what Mr. Vocab Malone does. I just talk about issues, social issues, biblical issues, and I just relaunched a audio podcast called In Context with Jim Green, and I talk about everything, but I really get into the political stuff and how the political issues cross over into the Christian community. A lot of people say there's separation of church and state and all that stuff, but there really is no separation of church and state because we're in the world and we have to deal with the things that are in the world. And American politics intersects with the moral issues that we have that come in the Bible. So I deal with those type of things also. That's why we got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. If we're going to live in this world, in 2020, we got to talk about all things that are in this world and not in this world. So appreciate you guys.
Amen. I appreciate that too, brother. And yeah, I just had some interesting calls right before you came.
Yeah, I'm checking that out. But stay on the front line though, bro. God is with you, my brother.
Hey, man. Thanks. I appreciate that, man. God bless. All right, you have a beautiful day.
Yeah, you too, bro.
Hey, shalom, Jim. Peace out. God bless. All right. Yeah. So we talked to Alex for a while. It's sad because I don't think he understands how sympathetic I actually am. And how what kind of great conversation we could have. And I don't really know if I got to finish this, but this pastor, who's a incredible theologian as well, who wrote this book, I met him in person. Great guy. He served for 33 years there at a church there in Tel Aviv. And he is reformed in his view. And the book is subtitled The Unity of Jews and Gentiles in the Church. And he has a beautiful position where he understands who the bride of Christ is. It's not a national state or an ethnic state or ethnic group or anything like that. He understands that. And has a really helpful way to understand the way the covenants go together and the way that Jews and Gentiles can have unity. Because let me tell you something. What you saw, and pray for the brother, it's tough because sometimes Middle Eastern Christians are forgot. Let me fix this here. A lot of times Middle Eastern Christians are forgot. And so that's why, I don't know if he understands, the guy who just called, how sympathetic I am to the cause, because he is right about Middle Eastern Christians getting forgot, getting persecuted, being caught in between Israel, other nations, the Islamic countries in their midst. And it's really a bad situation for a lot of them. I mean, the plight of the Assyrians is just, it's a tragic thing. The Armenians, the Greeks that lived in Turkey under the Ottomans, just tragic, tragic, tragic. So that's a real concern. I mean, they're almost wiping out Christians from the Middle East, but it's mainly the doing of Islamic countries. This guy was saying people who understand Jesus as Messiah don't want to live around Jews because they reject the Messiah. They don't want to be around them. And actually repeated the trope from the medieval era of Jews being Christ killers. I mean, he repeated that trope. Guys, we got to do better than that. We can be new covenant people and be people who respect Israel politically without making a Zionistic argument, and still realizing at the end of the day, we got to have a church that's Jew and Gentile alike. The good thing about the call we just had, though, not Jim, but the guy before that, Alex, is it shows you the challenges of the early church. What I'm saying is, imagine people with viewpoints like that about Jews, and then Jews who have low opinions of Gentiles, and they're trying to put them in a church together. The Jews are thinking, look at these dirty Gentile pagans. They worship gods. They're sexually immoral. They're gross. The Gentiles are thinking, these people have rejected Jesus. They think they're better than us. You have this, and then they're in the church together. When you start to understand that, you realize, wow, okay, this is a real issue. And, he was talking about, European and barely Jewish. It is a fallacy to think that there's a one-to-one correlation between any ancient population and modern groups. And that goes with Arab populations as well. For example, the Hebrews like to talk about Edomites, and I usually say they're gone as an ethnically distinct people, the Edomites. But if you chase the general historical trajectory of those who would be Edomites, for all intents and purposes, what we can gather happened to the Edomites as a distinct people group is that they're swallowed up essentially by mainly two people groups. One would be the people who live in the modern day state of Jordan, and then that general area, kind of swallowed up into those people, Arab-like peoples in those regions. So where could you find the most descendants of Edomites? Most likely in modern-day Jordan. But then you also have the fact that there was forced conversions by Jews during the Maccabean era, and they forced Edomites to convert. And so you have some of them that are kind of mixed into Jewish populations as well. And this kind of thing happens over and over again. And by the way, a good example of that is Herod of Idumea. So he's right that there's no one-to-one correlation, but it's silly to think that there is. You know what I'm saying? He didn't say that. He seems to only say, it was weird because on one hand he's saying the fake Jews who were barely Jewish. And then on the other hand, he was saying pure Jews. So the pure Jews are responsible for Jesus' death, and all the other people who claim to be Jews aren't Jews. Again, the DNA really, it's important for historical things and things like that, and to understand your culture and all that. But biblically speaking, it's not very important. And that's where Titus 3:9 comes into play in a very real way. And now you see why the Holy Spirit inspired Paul to write that to Titus, because of things like what was just talking about here. And so you look at that, and that'd be the case with anything. If you look at the population in Sicily, you take everyone in Sicily, you're going to find some people who actually live as Sicilians and think they're Italian and basically would have no Italian blood. They would be like Arab, Spaniard, Moorish, African, European, of other things, Greek sometimes. It's a really wild thing. But then you have people who are more connected to the mainland of Italy, but then they probably have some of those other mixtures as well. And it's like within each population pool, you have some things that are actually absent because of marriage and conversion, okay? And then you have other things that are present. And so I'm not trying to be a DNA expert, I'm still learning about this stuff. But the point is, within any modern day Jewry population, what we find is there's always DNA that goes back to the Levant, similar with almost every Arab population. And it's sometimes almost impossible. Hey, Speaking Truth, thank you for subscribing. Sometimes it's almost impossible to tell the difference between, if you just looked at the DNA layout, sometimes it's almost impossible to tell the difference if you're just looking at that between a lot of like modern day Jews or modern day Arab peoples. It's a fascinating thing because of the closeness there. You know what I mean? And there's a couple of you who were giving while I was talking to Alex and different things was happening, and I didn't get to give you guys a shout out, and I appreciate that. You were doing it through streamlabs.com/vocab Malone, and it comes directly to the ministry here. And I want to give a shout out. Thank you, D New, so much. Thank you, Roxby, again. Thank you, Austin Richards. Thank you, James Naftali. I missed you guys. Thank you, Phil Fox. Thank you, Roxby. Thank you, Nate, who set the whole thing off. I just want to thank you guys so much. A shout out to Castro as well. Now check this out. Fascinating conversation. Fascinating time. I think we're kind of winding down here for this smoke room, unless you guys have a final conversation or whatever, because it looks like I do need to get to this interview next on the Outer Brightness program. So I kind of need to wind that up. And also, let me make a little announcement here. I am supposed to be debating Dante Fortson tomorrow. Now, will he stick with it? We'll find out. But as of now, he has said yes to debating me 8 o'clock Eastern time on Brother Berean's channel. I wanted to debate Dante Fortson for a while. I don't think he's going to follow through. If he does, he's going to do a bunch of dirty tricks, which I'll try to call out in the debate. But the essence of the debate is supposed to be, did Dante Fortson get the 400 years wrong? Did he promote a false prophecy? The language needs to be something like that. I hope it's not something I hope they don't change the language of the debate, because that's what I agreed to. It should be very fascinating. A lot of you are going to get frustrated by it. But we'll find out. So we shall see. And then Sunday night, I'm trying to do that interview with the brother who was supposed to be here Friday night. Fortified Apologetics, Dante, that I speak of, is Dante Fortson. He actually used to be somewhat of a Christian apologist, although when he was a Christian apologist, he definitely overindulged in conspiracy theories and whatnot. But even as he overindulged in conspiracy theories, he had a basic essence of being sort of a Christian apologist, right? And then he eventually got into Hebrew Israelism instead, and that was where he decided to take things. And as he got into that, he became a very popular teacher. His platform is growing all the time, and he's got a lot of material, a lot of books, a lot of digital books, and a lot of blog articles he does, and a lot of videos, and a lot of podcasts. So very prolific. I think more than some people realize. He's very popular. He's very well funded and supported on Patreon. Actually, I think he's got 100 more or so people on Patreon than I have, for example. I think it's more than 100 more. He's very substantially well taken care of, you know what I'm saying? And so I don't think a lot of Christians realize the amount of kind of following he has. And it is what. Now, True Berean says, Berean's page is not the place to do it. Well, let me educate the audience here real quick. Check this out. Audience, you have to readjust your expectations when dealing with Hebrew Israelites. You have a different set of standards and you go in understanding that. It's like this. When you're playing Zelda, there's certain ways the Legend of Zelda games operate and certain characteristics and traits they have. When you're playing a Mario game, it has a different set of rules and controls and buttons and parameters and goals, right? You wouldn't want to have Zelda in mind when you were trying to play one of the Mario Brothers games. You'd be confused. You'd be messed up. You'd be in the wrong arena. Try to think that way with Hebrew Israelites. We're in a different rules, different set, different arena. Now, is it all good? No. It is what it is. Some of you won't be able to accept that. No, it should be the same standards all across the board. And some of it's cultural. Some of it's just stylistic. Some of it is to do with moral things, to be honest with you. You know, self-control, fairness, issues like that. But at the same time, here's what I'm saying to the audience. You just got to be a warrior, but a happy warrior, okay? You go in these places, and you understand what you're getting yourself into. You're springing traps. You're going into lions' dens. You're going into hostile environments. But you know what, guys? That's the world. We are not the majority. We have never been, and we will never be. Christians need to understand we are underdogs everywhere we go. We are the underdog. Now, we don't remember that all the time, and here's why. A lot of us are American, and we're used to having the hot seat. And when I say hot seat, I don't mean being on the hot seat. I mean the place of kind of, okay, we got the hot spot. And we kind of think like of a privileged position of America, you know. We're crazy. That's not the world. We are in a rare, strange Disneyland exception. I'm not saying America, I'm saying we got to understand. We're pilgrims. We're the weirdos, people. We're the aliens. We're the oddballs. We're the sojourners. We're the ones who are citizens of heaven. We're the ones who say our kingdom's not of this world. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Don't expect to be treated nicely. Don't expect that. Jesus said, you guys are going to get kicked out of synagogues, man, for my name's sake. They're going to kill you for my name's sake. So you know what? If we got to go into hostile environments where they cut us off and mute us and tell us to shut up and curse us out and talk about our moms, I can handle that. Can you handle that? Some of you cannot handle that. And there's a few reasons. Some of you are too sensitive. Some of you are weak as heck. Some of you are crybabies. Some of you have massive egos. Some of you think you need to be treated like royalty everywhere you go. Some of you just never have been hit with the hard bricks of reality. So you know what? Why don't you come along with me for the ride and realize, okay, let's go to battle with a smile on our face. We're going to do this. We'll get in there. We'll do whatever. It's a different environment. If you can't get with that, you're in the wrong place. And some of you, most of you have learned, I've seen, like when you're in these places, don't be in there complaining the whole time about bad behavior. Don't be whining. Don't fall into the tricks and traps they're going to set up with you in the live chat. Think strategically, but also think like Christ. And guess who? Jesus wants us to do that because he says, be harmless as doves, but wise as snakes, right? Doesn't he say that? Yeah, that's what he says. Someone just tried to call. What's going on? What's going on here? Weird. I'm having a problem with Skype. What's it doing here? Oh, okay. All right, this is the last person. I'm going to call Nat, and then we're going to call it a night after this. My point by saying that, by the way, was to say I agree with you, True Berean, but you got to understand, within the scope of where you can go to have a good Hebrew Israelite debate, where a lot of them are there, you've got to... You've just got to be able to deal with the fact that it's going to kind of be rough and tumble. You know what I'm saying? And I think you guys will get it. You guys will get it. You'll be able to get it eventually. Now, I'm calling you, Nat, but you're not picking up. I don't know if sometimes when people first learn how to use Skype, they don't know how to pick up or anything. But I just accepted your chat. So, hi, call in or pick up. Well, I don't. Natalie, are you live? Are you here?
Yeah, hi. I just want to ask.
Nat, all right. Are you able to show your face?
I'm not properly dressed, so.
Well, just show your face only. You don't have to.
Do I have to?
Well, I usually tell people
I can do it next time.
All right. Well, let's make it quick then, because I don't like having disembodied voices. But go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I wanted to ask, sorry, I was running up the stairs.
It's all right.
I'm out of breath. I wanted to ask, you said that Christians can't be anti-Zionists.
No. I said they can't be anti-Semitic.
They can't be anti-Semitic. Okay.
They cannot be. Meaning they can't hate. They can't hate Jews and have a racial bias towards Jews. You know what I'm saying? That's
okay. So why do you say that? And not racism. I'm not talking about racism, but just in general. Like, why do you say that? Why can't Christians be? How they spin it. How they spin anti-Semitism now. It's not really race.
Well,
it's you know what I mean.
I don't know who's they. Who spins what?
Well, when they say anti-Semitic, they if you go against Jews in any way, shape, or form.
Well,
if you don't agree with. Like the Noahide laws, right? They're coming out with that. So we can be against that, right? And if you go against Jews, you're anti-Semitic.
Well,
but Noahide laws
what do you mean? What do you mean go against Jews? Like, would you ever say if you go against Arabs or if you go against, Italians? What do you mean go against Jews? Like, what are you going against Jews? There's all kinds of Jews who believe all kinds of things. I'm just having trouble understanding what you mean by going against Jews. Why would you want to go against all Jews? You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, let me ask. So you say you can't be a Christian and be anti-Semitic. Yeah. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, anti-Semitic is sort of a specific. It's just like being anti-black or something like that. If you got a specific set of propositions.
You're talking about racism, then.
Yes, well, Semite's an ethnic designation.
Okay, so, but I'm not. Well, there's lots of Jews that are of different races. They're not exactly Semitic. Well, a lot of them. Are you talking about the religion, or you're talking about just the? Because a lot of Jews today, they're not Semitic.
What do you mean?
If you look at a lot of them.
Who's not Semitic?
If you look at the Jews living in Israel today, a lot of them are not Semitic, if you look at them.
How do you know by looking at them?
Well.
You can't tell someone's DNA by looking at them.
But people have been scattered everywhere, all over the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, let me help you out here. The Assyrians have no homeland. The Assyrians have been persecuted primarily by Muslims, especially the Ottoman Turks, but by many conquerors and whatever. And the Assyrians don't have a homeland. They have a flag. It'd be nice if they did have a homeland. They don't. But they've been scattered all over the world. They have had their own diaspora. A lot of people don't recognize it. So they're in Australia, they're in the States, places like San Jose and Chicago, in the UK. Assyrians are all over the world. Some in the Middle East, of course, as well. So Assyrians are all over. You can't necessarily tell who they are just by looking at them. They can blend in. They could look Turkish sometimes. They could, depending on where they're at, they can kind of blend into different populations. Okay, so they can be in different nationalities in different nations, but ethnically they're still Assyrian. So you can have Jews spread out. They can be in Yemen, Iraq, Iran, and they certainly are. And they end up looking somewhat different. There's even Jews in Africa, the Limba, the Ethiopians. So there's people all over. But you have this core Semitic identity. Now, at the same time, I recognize there's conversion and there's intermarriage. But the thing is, that's true with everybody. And what I'm saying is, to say go against Jews, to me, strikes me as odd. It'd be like saying going against Mexicans, going against Chicanos. Why would I go against all of them? You know what I'm saying? If you mean going against the policies of Israel, that's a different conversation. Because you're talking about Noahide laws. It seems like you're messing with the language. Do you mean going against policies of Israel? Is that what you mean?
Well, because you said you can't be anti-Semitic and be Christian at the same time.
Why would you? I mean, Jesus was Jewish, Natalie. Why would you hate Jews?
Well, because first of all, Jesus, I don't hate anyone.
Then you're not anti-Semitic.
Wait, what?
Then you're not anti-Semitic.
No, I'm not anti-Semitic.
So then why do you want to have people who can be Christians and be anti-Semitic?
Well, okay, you're saying that Christians cannot be anti-Semitic. You're thinking of like racism. That's not what I'm speaking about.
What does anti-Semitism mean then to you, Natalie?
Well, how they portray if you go against any Jewish policy.
Well, there's no. What do you mean Jewish policy? Do you mean Israel? Are you specifically talking about Israel?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so we got to be.
So
Natalie, in these conversations, we got to be careful because Jews who live in New York City. They're not setting Jewish policy. They live in New York City. They're under Mayor de Blasio. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you mean Israel, if you mean Israelis, that's different. There's all kinds of things to disagree about Israeli policy. They have horrible policies about messianics. They have horrible policies about proselytization. Now, it's not as bad as, Iran, but I totally...
When I think of anti-Semitic, I think of anything that the Jews want to do.
Here's the thing, though. All the Jews don't want to do anything. You're having a problem where you're literally lumping in all Jews worldwide and saying the Jews. That's a very odd thing to do in the first place. Would you do that with any other people group? Would you say anything that the Arabs want to do? Do all Arabs want to do the same thing, Natalie?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But you're saying that you can't be anti-Semitic and be Christian at the same time. When you say anti-Semitic, I'm automatically equating that with the policies of Israel.
Okay, why would you do that though? Because Israel is different than a Jew. Okay,
that's what's been pushed. That's been the narrative.
Let me explain what I mean. Let's say you have a Jew who lives in Lebanon, right?
Yes.
What government is that Jewish person under?
The Lebanese government.
Right, exactly. So is that particular Jew setting any policies for anybody, or are they living under another government, right? They're living under the Lebanese government, right? So that Jew is not setting policy for Israel even. In fact, they may disagree with some of the policies Israel has, for example, in regards to Lebanon, right? So to say go against, what I'm saying is you should be more careful. If you're talking about ethnic Jews, yes, you cannot hate that group of people and be a Christian. Of course not. Just like you couldn't hate African Americans and be a Christian. You can't.
Yeah, but I wasn't talking about ethnicity.
But you kept on saying Jewish and Semitic. That's different than Israeli. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because Israel is a nation. It's a state. And so all Jews don't live in Israel, right?
No, yeah, I understand. Right. I'm talking about, like, from the dispensationalist point of view, we're like Jews of the chosen people.
Yeah, but that's not my position. So I try to make that clear. I said several times, I'm not a Zionist. I don't make a theological argument for Israel's right to exist. I make a prudential argument for Israel's right to exist. And I've never held that people who reject Jesus as the Messiah are God's chosen people in any way. They are not God's chosen people.
Thank you.
I just did a debate on this Sunday night. I laid out the whole position and said all that. So that's why I said again and again, I'm not a Zionist. A Zionist is a person who makes a theological argument for the state of Israel. There's Christian Zionists and there's Jewish Zionists, right? This is the kind of main breakdown you have. You can be someone who's pro-Israeli without being pro-Zionist, because pro-Israeli means you support their right to exist. In general, you favor them over and against other countries, such as Iran, for example, who literally does not recognize Israel on her maps. The leadership says on a regular basis they want to push Israel to the edge of the sea. And you have things like this. Essentially, they want another Jewish Holocaust in the Middle East. You know what I'm saying?
Have you heard of the Greater Israel Project?
The Greater Israel Project? I don't think so. Tell me about it.
How they want to go to war to expand their land.
Okay, let's look at history here. So in 1967, who attacked who?
I don't know. Like, I don't know everything about the history or whatever. But
so the Arab states,
I know
Muslim
the
Arab states. Well, no, the reason. Check this out. But the reason I'm bringing this up is to show you. I see what you're embracing is sort of one. This happens a lot. This is sort of a Zionist conspiracy theory type thing again, is what we're dealing with. So you have some far-right people and you have some people funding this, is what it looks like. But that doesn't equal that's what they're about. And see, this is where we get into anti-Semitism. It's filled with Jewish stereotypes, Jewish tropes, and anti-Jewish ideas where Jews are sort of characterized as decidedly and inherently wicked, greedy, and all that stuff. And I keep on seeing people do that, and I think it's incredibly, unbelievably Christian to do. Now, check this out. In 1967, Natalie, the Arab states, the Muslim states, surrounded Israel and it had a coordinated attack, right? Same thing, similar, very with what's it called, the 6-Day War, the 7-Day War. These are all attacking at once. Israel got more land in that process because of the attacks, and they used that extra land as sort of buffers or borders, which is a good thing, because when they don't...
Do you think that was God? Do you think that was God?
Well, I'm a Calvinist, so I hold that everything from the diaspora to everything is ultimately the plan of God. But I don't hold that Israel in 1948 is a fulfillment of prophecy. I'm not a dispensationalist.
Okay.
So everything to me is God. I'm a Calvinist, but I'm not a dispensationalist. So I do not hold that these are these fulfillments of prophecy, you know, where dispensationalists do. But I could tell you this: Israel was an underdog and beat a multiple front attack by multiple countries a number of times, and in the process gained more land. If they wouldn't have attacked them, that wouldn't have happened. Plus, Israel has made, especially in the Camp David Accords, incredibly generous offers to the PLO for a two-state solution, and they rejected it because really they don't even think Israel has a right to exist. You can never have a two-state solution unless one of the states says, yes, one of the states is legitimate. About 30, 40 years... Say what?
Can you define Israel for me? What does that mean?
It's a state with specific geographical borders.
Okay, so when you say that they don't have a right to exist, that people said they don't have a right to exist, does that mean a certain people in a certain land? Is that what it means, with a certain religion or a certain ethnic group? Or does that mean, what does that mean?
Well, the earlier caller said, ship all those Jews to Russia. He does not want Jews in Israel. It's a perfect example.
Well, he's talking about Ashkenazi Jews.
He didn't, no. First of all, this is the. Are you under the impression that all Jews are Ashkenazi?
No, I think people can convert to Judaism no matter what ethnic group they belong to.
You understand what is an Ashkenazi Jew to you?
Well, I don't think they're Semitic. I don't think they have the bloodline.
Okay, so I didn't ask you what you don't think they are. We could talk about that. What is it though? How do you define Ashkenazi? Because you seem to be agreeing, saying keep the Ashkenazi Jews out of Israel. What is an Ashkenazi Jew?
I'm asking you, like, what do you think? You're saying that people do not have basically you're saying that, okay, there should be a state. So do you believe that people that define as they say that they're Jewish, right? They define as being a Jew, whether they're of the bloodline, quote unquote, or not, or they converted. Do you think that they now have a right to go live in a certain land because they define as Jewish, whether they have the DNA or not?
Natalie, they already live there.
Well,
that's okay. They are already there. You were going on more than half a century as far as the current incarnation of the state of Israel. They're already there. Now, here's what I was saying. Some of the problem I recognize is some of the problem of definition. An Ashkenazi Jew is essentially a Jew who went through specifically Eastern Europe during the dispersion. That's where they put down their roots, and that's where they came back out of, such as Russia or Poland. Ashkenazi Jews sort of are the most sort of prominent in a lot of people's mind as far as modern-day Jewry, but the amount of Ashkenazi Jews with modern Jewry, every number I've ever seen is 55. Some people estimate 60%. So somewhat of a majority, but it's not an overwhelming majority. It seems to be decreasing as the diversity of modern-day Jewry increases. My point by saying that is when we talk about Jews, modern-day Jewry, we're talking about a diverse group of people from all over, and they're all coming in this land to live together and to give a place for Jews to live in a world that does not like them. If you look at the UN resolutions against Israel, it's disproportionately anti-Israeli, which is a shocking thing. And so when you look at that, we're living in a world that's like that. Jewish graves are still desecrated in Europe. Anti-Semitism has never went away. The Holocaust really happened, and this is a real issue and a real problem. Giving those people a place to land, especially when they bought a lot of it, is a good idea so they can protect themselves and not get wiped off the face of the earth like a lot of the Arab Muslim leaders want to do. That's all I'm saying. That's a prudential argument. Huh?
Do Christians have a right to have a land with only Christians and basically just go there and wipe out everyone around to make a land? Do Christians have that right?
Well, the Christians
we
are all...
can just decide, hey, this is Christian nation, wherever...
Christians are all over the world, Natalie, so there is no... Christians, people who call themselves Christians have tried that before, such as in Spain, and guess what they did? They kicked out all the Jews and the Muslims. That's what they did in 1492. And so people have tried things like that. I don't think it's a good idea. But here's the thing. Are you aware? Hold on. Are you aware that non-Jews live in Israel right now? Are you aware of this?
Yes, I'm aware.
Okay. Are you aware that some of them have positions of power within the government, including Palestinians?
I'm sure I know that.
Such as being on the Supreme Court and a number of other things. Now, certainly it's a minority because the majority of the state is not that. But listen, this is where the insanity comes in when people flip it around and you look at what happens in every other Middle Eastern government. You don't have non-Muslims or non-ethnic group of the people living. You have exactly what you're talking about. The kind of stuff you're talking about should make you upset at Turkey. The kind of stuff you're talking about should make you upset at certain factions of the Iraqi government. It should make you upset about what Iran is doing. That's where you should be upset about, not in Israel. Israel is the least offender out of all of those nations. And I don't understand why people don't recognize that. And that's why a lot of people there, a lot of the common people of Palestinians want a peaceful, common sense two-state solution, but their leadership has utterly failed them. And if you look, I mean, you realize they really do send missiles from hospitals? This really happens when people want to fight the wicked Jews in Israel. This is what really happens. And the Jews have to make a decision. Do we take out...
What the Jews do?
Huh?
What about what the Jews do to the Palestinians? What about that?
Tell me. I mean, I imagine you're going to... It's almost like you didn't hear anything I said. It's like we're not talking about anything else except for this obsession with we don't want Israel in the Middle East.
Okay, can you address the Noahide laws?
Tell me, you got to explain what you mean. We have a problem of definition here. I know what Noahide laws are according to Genesis, but what are you talking about?
You haven't heard of the Noahide laws that Jews want to basically make law around the world. You haven't heard about that, the Noahide laws.
Yeah, so
and how Christians are going to be beheaded.
Okay, so
basically because of no.
You believe a lot of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, Natalie. I am sorry.
It's not a conspiracy theory when they admit it themselves. There's several videos of them saying this.
Okay, several videos. You know what you need to watch a video of is actual Muslims actually chopping off people's head in real life. Not what they want to do, what they are listen, Natalie, what they're really doing. All these conspiracy theories about all the wicked things Jews are supposedly going to do just flies over my head when I go and I can find real videos of, by the way, Middle Eastern Christians actually getting their heads chopped off by actual Muslims. Not we want to do this. They are literally doing it. And you're talking about Noahide laws, which that's not the way it's applied. This is not Sharia. Sharia is a real thing, Natalie, that people are really doing right now in 2020. The Israeli government is nothing like that. It's true they don't let Christians proselytize with the freedom we would like, but they don't kill them like they do in Saudi Arabia. They don't kill them like they do in China. And I don't understand why we want to model some of these other Middle Eastern governments when they literally are all oppressive, repressive. What country in the Middle East has the best rights for women?
I'm not defending Muslims. I'm not defending any Middle Eastern country. I'm asking you about Noahide laws.
And I'm answering you, showing what you're talking about is a conspiracy theory that's not a real thing. And I'm talking about...
Noahide law isn't real.
Finding some Jew talking about him wanting Jewish domination, which is usually some hardcore Orthodox guy, does not mean this is what all Jews want. For example, Jerry Seinfeld is a Jew, right? Do you think Jerry Seinfeld wants to chop off people's head for not following Judaism? You know, it's just crazy.
Jerry Seinfeld is probably a Satanist. I mean, if you want to get real about it.
Okay.
I mean,
we clearly have Jerry Seinfeld is certainly not a Christian, but that's different than saying he's a Satanist. What are you saying? He's a Satanist because he's a Jew? Is that what's going on?
No. I'm just.
Dear Lord, you can't just go around calling people Satanists with no evidence, Natalie.
Okay, look, listen to what I'm saying. So you don't believe that Noahide laws are real. You don't believe that they want these laws put into place. And you know what? This goes with scripture, by the way. Have you heard of the Antichrist? You know what I'm saying? The Antichrist. What's going to happen?
I thought you're not a dispensationalist, and yet you hold to the Antichrist?
I'm absolutely not a dispensationalist.
Well, the whole idea of the Antichrist is sort of a dispensationalist notion. So you have a mixed bag of your theology here. I hold there's Antichrists. I hold as a covenant theologian there's Antichrist after Antichrist after Antichrist. Now there may be a final Antichrist, but there's Antichrist now. Huh?
Do you believe in the mark of the beast?
Not in the way. Wait, you believe in the mark of the beast as a chip? Is that what you believe, Natalie?
I don't know what form it comes in, but yeah, sure.
It's simply a submission to a satanic system. That's what the mark of the beast is.
Yeah, it means there's one world government. Okay. There's a leader of one world government. And
Natalie, you are a dispensationalist. Listen, Natalie, let me help you out. You have the strangest mixed bag of theology I think I've ever seen in my life. You are a dispensationalist who hates Jews and doesn't think Israel should have a state. That's bizarre. Now, let me tell you about the Noahide laws. It's true in the Bible, there is general rules given after they got out of the ark, which are actually pretty benevolent and sort of universal humanitarian. They actually argue against the eternality of the Mosaic law. Actually, it's actually a very important point to understand what the Noahide laws are, and they're not oppressive either. They're nothing like Sharia or anything like that. Now, let me stop. There is a such thing, just like there's supremacists in every ethnic group. There are Jewish supremacists who think these should be done by force and that should happen. You can find that. That is a marked exception from secular Israel, and that's why those kinds of Jews you're talking about don't even support Israel, such as the brother talked about earlier. So here's what we have a situation of. The situation is you have actual Sharia taking place where Jews and Christians can't even occupy government. They can't even be cops. They're dhimmi. They have a second-class status. Yeah. And now here's what I'm asking you. What do you want to happen in Israel? Who should be in charge and who should be allowed in there then? If you don't want the Jews there, who should be there and who should be in charge? The PLO?
No, I'm not talking. Listen to what I'm saying.
I'm listening.
My issue is with Christians that say that Jews are chosen when these people deny Christ. They hate Christ. They hate Christians. They are looking for their Messiah, okay? They reject Jesus as their Messiah.
They don't all. And if you had listened to me 1,000 times, I don't think Jews who reject Jesus are chosen. Have you not heard me? I'm a covenant guy. What that means is we are in the new covenant. That means God's people are centered around Jesus Christ, not around DNA from Abraham. So any Jew who accepts Jesus is in the one olive tree. We are one body. Any Jew or any Arab or any Italian who rejects is outside of that. So I don't understand, why are you arguing against dispensationalists, which you actually partially are with some of your eschatology? Why are you arguing against dispensational views against me when I don't hold it? So maybe that is your problem, but you've never answered the question. If you don't want Jews in the Middle East because you painted them as an oppressive people who wanted to kill everybody around them, that's essentially what you've done. Where should they go and who should be in charge? Please tell me.
My main question for you is, you said Christians cannot be anti-Semitic and be a Christian at the same time.
Are you anti-Semitic?
No, I'm not anti-Semitic.
So why do you want Christians to be anti-Semitic then?
Listen. How I took it was, you can't be anti-Jew because if you're anti-Jew, you're not Christian.
Yeah, you can't be anti-Jew either. You're right. You shouldn't hate Jews. Don't you agree with me? I don't get it. Do you want to hate Jews?
Listen to what I'm saying.
But Natalie, would you answer me? Do you hate Jews?
I hate anyone who wants to kill me.
Dear Lord. First of all, do you think that's a Christian attitude when it says love your enemy, pray for those who persecute you? Is that even a Christian attitude, number one? Didn't Jesus say as he was being crucified, forgive them for
they know? Do you love your enemies?
When I'm in the spirit, I certainly do. When I'm in my flesh, no. But,
exactly.
But exactly. I don't answer, yeah, I hate them all. If that's the case, if that's the case, then you need to be concerned with people like ISIS and Sunni Islam and Salafi, not some Orthodox Jew living in a hill studying the Torah.
They don't just study the Torah. They study the Talmud. They study the Zohar. They study all that.
Yes, I know that. I was just giving a short version. I've done whole shows on this. Now, again, do you hate Jews?
No, I don't hate Jews.
Okay. So why do you want to say Christians can be anti-Semitic when it means anti-Jewish? I never said anti-Israeli. You have to understand there's a difference between a people group and the nation state. Okay? Now. Because
the way that people portray it nowadays is if you say anything against any Jewish person or anything that any Jew or Israel has to say, any of their policies, any of that, if you go against it, you're anti-Semitic.
Natalie, let me tell you I disagree with what happens at Tel Aviv. They have a big, massive pride parade there, and it's not godly and it's not good. The government there encourages it. It's considered a massive destination for people of that lifestyle, and I don't think it helps anyone. It's a bad thing. I don't agree that Tel Aviv does that. I don't think it's good the way some Palestinian Christians have been treated. I don't think it's good, especially the way Messianic Christians have been treated. I don't think it's good that they'll allow the right of return unless you embrace Jesus as Messiah. I don't think that's good. I don't think some of the historic racism against black folks in their midst that's been a problem, which a lot of countries have, doesn't make it okay. I'm not for any of that. So Israel's not perfect. Israel's a secular state. Israel is not a godly government. But that doesn't mean, just like Polish people should have a place to live, it doesn't mean Jews shouldn't have a place to live. So not agreeing with everything Israel does is different.
So you're talking about their bloodline then?
No, because, here's the thing. Defining a Jew has always been a tricky issue because it's a religion. It's a religion that's directly tied in with an ethnic thing. And a lot of secular Jews view it really as a cultural thing. So I don't define it strictly as a bloodline. However, when we start talking about ethnic Jews, there's a sense of, we understand there's in a sense evidence that they go back to the Levant, meaning there's a genetic element there. Just like with Arab people, there's genetic elements. And by the way, when we talk about J haplogroup, a lot of Arabs have the same thing. They're very, very closely related people groups in their general ethnic makeup as a general rule. And I don't understand why you can't really answer directly. Let me ask you this way. Do you love Jews, Natalie?
Do I love Jews?
Yeah, do you love Jews?
I want everyone to be saved, whether they're a Satanist.
Why can't you just say yes or no, Natalie? Natalie, check this out. Do you love Arabs?
Yes.
Now, I love Arabs too. Why?
No, I love every. Look,
notice this though. You can say yes, I love Arabs, Natalie, but you couldn't say yes, I love Jews. Why?
Wait. Let me answer this question, okay?
Okay.
I love people in the sense that I want them saved. So I want everyone saved. Everyone. Even Hillary Clinton. Okay.
So Natalie,
okay.
what if the only church around was a Jewish church filled with Jewish Christians? Would you go to that church?
Would I go to a Jewish church?
Yeah, everyone is ethnically Jewish, but they're all Christians, and that's the only church in your area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But if they have some sort of, if they're trying to convert me to Judaism,
no, they're not Judaizers. They're people who ethnically their background is Jewish, but they love Jesus Christ. They recognize him as Messiah. Would you go to that church?
Ethnically, you can't say who's Jewish though. That's
okay.
They all look different.
Can you say? But hold on, Natalie. It's funny. You just said ethnically you can't see who's Jewish, and yet you've been here all night telling me the Jews want to control the world, and the Jews want to have the 7 Noahide laws, and the Jews hate us, and you've been telling me all the stuff Jews do. Now, the second I say something positive about Jews, well, we don't know who's a Jew. We don't know who's a Jew. But when it's something bad, then we know who they are.
It can't be defined though.
Okay. Then can Arab be defined?
Yeah.
Can Italian be defined?
Are you talking about bloodline?
Can Italian be defined? No. Whenever you define a people group, it's usually several factors put together. That's why we say ethnic group.
You're talking about ethnicity.
Okay. Is there an Arab ethnic group?
Yes.
Is there an Italian ethnic group?
Yes.
Viva Italia. But there's no Jewish ethnic group. You don't see the problem here? You're saying there's no such thing as Jews, and yet Jews are responsible for all this evil. We've got a serious problem.
Are we talking about the ethnic group or the religion?
I literally said, is there a Jewish ethnic group, Natalie? And you said no. I actually asked you, is there a Jewish ethnic group? And you said no. So we know what we're talking about. Is there a Jewish ethnic group?
I think that the people that I believe Israel was scattered everywhere.
Okay, just like the Assyrians. Again.
So I don't believe that there's like full-blooded Jew.
Is there Natalie? Is there a full-blooded anything? Almost every Black American, every Black American friend of mine who's ever done a 23andMe, none of them are full-blooded. Most people assume
everyone's scattered everywhere.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, why are you saying it just to Jews? It's an irrelevant thing just to say to Jews. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you're applying that. You're right. No one is full-blooded anything. I've said this a number of times, but we understand what we mean when we say Black Americans. When we say Europe, when we say English, when we say Scottish, Irish, we have this general configuration, usually based upon a number of things, such as general phenotype, lineage, culture, borders, language, things like that, right? Okay, Same thing with Jews. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so my issue is with people that say that they're Jews and people like dispensationalists who say that they love oh yeah, they're chosen or whatever, blah, 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 blood.
Okay, call
right?
a different show. Natalie, you seem like a nice gal, but I'm getting a little impatient. Call a different show and complain about that, because that's not me. I'm not a dispensationalist, so why are you bothering me about it? Seriously. I mean it in a friendly way, but Natalie, I'm not a dispensationalist. Why are you complaining about it to me?
You said that you can't be Christian and be anti-Semitic.
That's not a dispensationalist position. That's just a humanitarian position that says, just like I love the Arab people, I love the Jewish people. That's all I'm saying. How can a person who loves God say, I hate this people group? That's really all I'm saying, Natalie. Isn't that evident? Especially people that the Bible says have a historical pedigree that we should recognize. And that's why we as Gentile believers should not boast against the natural branches. Now, if they're not saved, they're not saved, and they're headed for doom and destruction. They're cut off from the main vine, Jesus. That is between them and God, and that's a serious issue, and that's why we should believe in evangelism to all people groups, including those who would identify as Jewish, whatever that means. But I don't understand why we would say, recognize that God has done something, but we also recognize the church is the fulfillment of all the promises to Abraham. So that's why I don't hold, if you don't hold Jesus the Messiah, in no way are you chosen. In no way are you God's people. I'm not a dispensationalist, so I just don't know what you're arguing against, because that's not my position. My position is radically different than that. And a lot of dispensationalists, Natalie, have a big problem with me because I don't recognize Israel as this chosen distinct nation. I do recognize it as something that has a right to exist in the world, in the Middle East, and that as a sort of outpost for democracy in a very messed up Middle East. But that's not a theological argument. That's a politically prudential argument. You see what I'm saying?
No, yeah, I understand. I just, I'm just saying, if people can't say that Jews are chosen anymore because Jesus already came here. He came here 2,000 years ago. So you can't really say Jews are chosen for anything because Jesus already fulfilled it. Bloodline, right? He had Rahab.
Natalie,
ancestor.
I'm gonna ask. Hey, can someone in the live chat grab my debate with Elder Yara and drop that link in here? Natalie, you should probably listen to my debate, because I say what you're saying. I just don't have the anti-Semitic aspect in my arguments. But I appreciate meeting you. Maybe next time you can show your face. You can call in anytime. Thank you very much. We can continue to work through this together and learn together, I hope, Natalie, and I hope you have a beautiful night.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Oh, wow. Looks like one body in Yahushua is talking trash. What are you saying in here? I have not been looking at the live chat, one body. Tell Vocab I want to debate him. Who is this? I am impressed, one body in Yahushua classroom. I don't know who you are. If you're Jephthah, or the one guy's name, if you're the leader, I'm super shocked. Listen, one body in Yahushua classroom. I'm speaking directly to whoever's operating the keyboard. I don't know. I will debate you in a heartbeat. Now, we have to agree on a fair topic. It can only be one topic. Professional debates don't have multiple topics. A lot of Hebrewites want to have 3 topics in one debate. No. It should also be something that's specific and not general. That way there can be a focus on the topic. It also needs to be on a neutral platform. I don't really like even doing debates on my platform because I don't like running a show while I'm doing a debate. So I like to do it on decent Hebrew Israelite platforms. I'd even do it on Brother Brian's channel. You know what I'm saying? I would do it on Debate Talk for You. I don't know about Solovision or whatever. I don't know about them. Maybe The Source. I don't get to know that debate league. There's different places we could do it. I'm down for that, okay? You let me know which ones you'd agree with. I can actually help set it up. I want to do this virtual. I'm not flying to Dallas or anywhere anytime soon. So if that's what you meant, if you mean you want me to come out in the street again and from your classroom, I don't know when I'm going to Dallas again, but I'm not going to fly out just to do that. But if you mean like a moderated debate, I am 100% down with that. I treat you with respect, all of that, and we can set that up. I'm shocked you're saying this, and I hope that you actually follow through. The way to contact me is on social media and email. If you want my email, vocabalone@gmail would be one place. I need your information because I don't know who you are. It just says one body. I will be in New York in a week. Well, bro, I don't live in New York, sir. I don't live in New York, so I'm not going to be in New York. I've really limited my traveling during COVID-19, and I'm not going to be traveling, so I wouldn't be able to do that. I'm going to take this call, but if it's somebody I've already hit up or somebody who's banned from the show, we're going to have to pass on because we really need to get out of here. But one body in Yahushua, you hit me up and you let me know, but I'm not going to go to New York. But if you mean a virtual debate, then we could set that up. But I'm not going to fly to New York to debate you on a street. You know what I'm saying? So stick with me, email me, please, and let's talk. Okay, let's have a discussion. Oh, Yeftha. Okay, hit me up. Let's do this. All right? Let me have a very interesting discussion. Hello, who am I speaking with here?
Hi, my name is Jacob. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, Jacob.
Awesome. It's very nice to meet you. You're super kind, and I love the way that you get deep into the laws and stuff and into the scripture. So I just want to say that it is nice to meet you, and I don't mean to like over praise you or anything, of course. But I did just want to say, I don't know if this is off topic or anything. I don't even know if it's biblically accurate. I just want to say first, I am a Christian. I am a Trinitarian. I don't know too much about denominations. I'm still learning about evangelism. As much as I know about evangelism is basically that I think the first evangelist was the woman, the Samaritan woman that Jesus met at the well. But then what I really wanted to say is I wanted to know, do you know if there are any scriptures or if there's any teachings on the devil or like the demonic spirits invading the world? Because I used to believe that according to the gospel, the demons were cast, or that the devil was binded up, like in the book of Enoch. I know it's not considered authentic to some people, but when I was younger, I read the book of Enoch, and I had a lot of faith in what I was reading here because of the descriptions that Enoch had given according to the places that he had seen, and it was just very interesting to me. So in that book, it says that they were binded up, that God was angry with them because they had deceived men, they had sought worship from men, and then they had children with the women. And when the children grew up to be giants and these creatures, they were then gathering the people up. If I'm remembering correctly, they gathered the people up, and then they made the people wage war with each other, and they would build these structures or something, and then after the humans killed each other off, they would take the dead bodies of them and they would eat them, and then after that they would fight each other, and then they would consume each other, like cannibalism. I know that's nothing in the Bible, but I heard that this was a book that was well heard in the past. So in that book, it says that God.
Usually people call in and they kind of ask a question. We have a little discussion.
Yeah, sorry.
And usually I have a rule of people have to show their face too. But let me briefly say something before I get to the last person. Enoch was never in the Tanakh, so it's it has a false name. So we're getting it discovered in the, I think it was first discovered in the 18th century. It almost kind of disappeared. In a way, it was there at Qumran, so we know it existed somewhat before Jesus. You know what I'm saying? So we discovered that later on. I understand that there's people who have cherished it. There's been Jews who have cherished it, even if they did not view it as canonical. There have been Christians who have cherished it, even if they did not view it as canonical. The Copts, the Coptic Christians, they're in Egypt, have a special affinity for it, similar with the Ethiopians, I believe, the Ethiopian church. And I understand that. I respect that. A book can have important things, even if it's not canonical. But it was not included. It was not canonized. It was not approved by the Universal Church. And I think part of the problem is that basically it's pseudepigrapha, meaning it has a name attached to it that we know was not from Enoch. So whoever wrote it, which we don't know, and anonymous books could be in the canon, for example, Hebrews, but the proximity to when the time was written to when it's canonized was much closer, whereas Enoch, we most certainly know, was not written by Enoch, and yet it has the name. So the problem is this false attribution is a big testimony sort of against its inclusion in that. So there's a lot of speculation and sort of what appears to me to be Jewish mysticism, honestly, and I see people do more with it. I know Heiser does a lot with it, and I know there's people who have that view. I haven't done a 100% deep dive in Enoch, so there's a limit to how much I can discuss this at this point in time. I have to do more of that. I'm not against people reading it. That's different than it having a major impact in my theology, though. And I think we should take that into account, especially when there's other things that are in Scripture that are directly about demons and devils. And, that's kind of how you began sort of your main question, was in relationship to that. And there's a lot in there in the Bible about demons or nefarious spiritual beings, And we could do a whole thing on demonology just from the Bible, and just look through the New Testament and Jesus' interaction with the kingdom of darkness, and Acts, and what's happened in Revelation. And there's so much there. I don't like to include Enoch in it when I don't view it as canonical, but we could at the same time say, what does Enoch teach about it? But then it has to mesh up with Scripture. But I'd be troubled by introducing whole new paradigms based upon what the book says. You see what I'm saying? And so there's other stuff I would look at first, but that's kind of all about that. If you want to say maybe a final thing about it, if you have a different perspective, that's fine.
Yeah, I still have a main question. I wasn't really trying to get too much into the Book of Enoch. I kind of ramble a little bit. What I really meant to say is that I just found it interesting that in the Book of Enoch it says, because I've been looking into history myself, and I've been praying to God, and at this time in the past, a few years ago, when I was praying, I had asked God to show me a dream. And I prayed to God. I said, Lord, I want you to show me a dream that I have never seen before, that no man could ever see unless it was given to them by God. And I saw a really weird dream. I'm not going to get into it right now because it has pagan symbolism in it, but I don't think that many of the viewers would understand it. You would have to go in depth into it as a Christian to know the symbolic meanings that God was showing me in this dream. But when I was doing the research on the symbols that I had learned, one of the things that I stemmed back to was that the sons of light had descended down and supposedly, according to the Book of Enoch, taught the people how to make metal, or how to make like armor and weapons, and they taught them how to make magic, and they taught the women beautiful jewelry, because the angels in heaven would wear these beautiful things, and it was not like, I mean, that's just in the book.
But like you see, you got demons are metaphysically, they're not embodied beings. So how do embodied beings? They had
sex with women.
Well, that's what Enoch says, and that's one reason I reject it. I don't hold that disembodied spirit beings had sex with women, because I don't view them as having male members, because they're invisible and they're immaterial. And when I read Jesus, he says they'll be like the angels. They're not going to give in marriage. And the implication is this is not something they do. Now, I know there's arguments against that and all that, but I don't find that convincing. It seems to be a metaphysical impossibility to have that. And also the idea with metallurgy, well, you can go back to Genesis 4 and you see the first blacksmith, and you got Tubal Cain, and you have that in Genesis 4:22. So we don't necessarily need.
But Enoch came before him.
Yeah, but Enoch in the timeline is one question, and I'd have to look it up to see exactly where he falls in there. But that's different than Genesis versus the Book of Enoch. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like, why do demons want to come teach humans metallurgy? I don't. Why do they want to teach them how to wear fancy vests? Some of this is decidedly bizarre to me.
It says it says, I know that you don't look into it, but if I remember correctly, it said that the reason why they did this was because the people were getting angry. They were becoming sad, and they were becoming stressed out. Like, I don't know the word. Like, they were in despair because these beings had descended down and they were doing things that we did not like anymore. So they started to pray to God. And I think it was I don't know if it was the angel Gabriel or Michael. I don't know which one he said, but he went to the Lord to tell him, like, Lord, these people are praying to you, and we know that you know what we do not know. And so we came to you knowing that you already knew this thing. Therefore, Father, therefore, God, what will you have us do? And then and so basically it was just saying that the reason why they did this, teaching us magic and teaching us how to do these things, like how Prometheus supposedly brought the flame, or how the snake he didn't give us the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. God did, but it was because of him that we had been deceived into taking it. But the reason supposedly was because they wanted us to stop praying to God. They told us that we would give you things in return. Don't pray.
So this is almost like ancient alien thesis, where we can't explain, how the pyramids came about. I'm saying it's like almost an ancient equivalent. Like this thesis is almost like We can't figure out how the pyramids got there. Well, it must have been aliens that came down and gave humans technology. It's almost like this story you're telling me is almost like a version of that. Humans couldn't come up with metallurgy on their own, so God told these spirit beings, and they came down then and told them metallurgy and got it from the heavens. God created humans with the capacity to bear His image, and part of that was to have a proper biblical care for creation, a proper dominion over creation, and part of that included the ability to wield tools. And so they don't need demons. And here's the thing: I just looked it up to double check. Genesis 4:22 says this: Zillah also bore Tubal Cain, who was a forger of all instruments of bronze and iron. And so that's in Genesis 4:22. But Enoch isn't until Genesis chapter 5:21. So my point by saying that is the founder of metallurgy in the Bible is prior to the mention of Enoch. And so that's kind of enough. You know, the Bible, it seems like it would need to say, if this whole backstory is there, this actually was given to them by these spirit beings. But it just says Tubal Cain. So you have the beginning of metallurgy right there without all this extra backstory. So I don't find it compelling or any reason to think it's historical. That's a problem, to build a whole paradigm on it, especially one that seems kind of irrelevant, meaning there's a lot of irrelevancy to this kind of narrative that I find as well. And if demons can have sex with women back then, why can't they have sex with them now?
Well, yeah, you're right. But that's where I was kind of getting at. I think I should ask you my question now because I think I've built it up enough.
Okay.
My main question really was, are people still able today to be deceived or meet these demonic spirits, in a manner that these spirits would teach them certain things, or that they would cause them to do things? Because what I want to refer to is maybe a couple of things. The main thing I want to refer to is, I forget what book it is. I'm not sure if it's Exodus or I think it's Deuteronomy. It has to be Deuteronomy. In Deuteronomy, perhaps chapter 18, maybe 20, I don't know. But somewhere around there it says, no, was it in Exodus? I don't know. It says, God says, if any prophet or if any man comes to you leading you away from me, and they show you signs and miracles, or they have dreams and they lead you away from me, cut him off, or like kill him, basically.
Maybe excommunicated from the people, perhaps even executed.
Yeah, or cast him out.
Yeah, what does it have to do with spirit beings? These are fellow Israelites.
Well, the reason why you're gonna, I hope this, it should open up to you immediately. The reason why I ask this is because, how is it that ordinary men are doing things, or God, because it's not a man that's saying this, really. It's kind of like God is telling us that a man can come to you leading you away from me, and he can profess things that are prophetic, and he can do miracles. And that is scary to me, because it made me think about
can I read you a Bible verse, and then we're going to need to get out of here, brother. Acts 16 says this: as we were going to the place of prayer, we were met by a slave girl who had a spirit of divination and brought her owners much gain by fortune-telling. She followed Paul and us, crying out, "These men are servants of the Most High God who proclaim to you the way of salvation." And this she kept doing for many days. Paul, having become greatly annoyed, and that's why he's my spirit brother, he gets greatly annoyed, turned and said to the spirit, "I command you in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her." And it came out that very hour. But when her owners saw that their hopes of gain was gone, they seized Paul and Silas and dragged them into the marketplace before the rulers. And when they had brought them to the magistrates, they said, "These men are Jews, and they keep disturbing our city. They advocate customs that are not lawful for us as Romans to accept or practice." The crowd joined in attacking them, and it goes on from there. So here's the point. She has a demonic spirit that is oppressing her, influencing her, and aiding her in this process. And it's one that has some ability to make it appear, because remember, Satan's a deceiver, make it appear as if he's telling the future. Once the demonic spirit is no longer attached to her, we're using kind of loose language when we start talking this way because we're talking about invisible beings. She no longer has that ability, so this is not something she did. But so here's the deal. Demonic oppression is real. Demons can enable humans to do certain things they would not otherwise do, but at the end of the day, it's for deception and destruction. John 10 says that Satan comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So here, she's still in this gal's, in a sense, will, it appears, still, because she's a servant girl. She's doing all this. She's similar to the Gadarene demoniac. He's able to rip off chains that you shouldn't be able to
Yeah.
rip off, kind of like almost like Samson, except evil version. And then you have the 7 sons of Sceva who got beat naked by one guy out running out of the house. It takes a lot for have 1 on 7. You know what I'm saying? One dude beat up 7 dudes, send them out of the house naked. Like, how often does that happen, right? I don't even think Chuck Norris in his prime could do this kind of thing. So my point is, by saying that is that we see demonic power is real. We see that there can be actual oppression, and you can see that they can essentially use humans as an instrument for this. That's kind of different than this whole other picture. So that can really happen, yes, and it still does happen, and it happened then, and that's why we need to be equipped for spiritual warfare. But it seems a little bit different than what you're saying. Just remember, though, at the end of the day, when we talk about demons, they're there to oppress, and they're there to deceive us and lead us away from Christ. And that's why Satan, who's the master of all these guys, comes as one who looks like an angel of light, but he's there just to deceive. So that's what I would say to that.
They can come back? Because that's my real question.
Demons are still
question.
the devil is active in this world. He runs around.
Not demons, but people doing those demonic things.
Well, no. People. No. Once the rich man in the parable of the Lazarus and the rich man, he goes directly into Hades until he awaits his day of judgment. The poor man, Lazarus, goes immediately into the presence of the Father. We see the euphemistic language there, Abraham's bosom, paradise. He's with him. Jesus says to the thief on the cross, today I'll be with you in paradise, right? So there's no ghosts hanging around. There's no disembodied spirits hanging around. There's no Caspers. There's nothing like that. Demons are active in this world and very real and cause problems, but we don't have to fear them because perfect love casts out all fear, and we know that greater is he that lives in us than he who is in the world. However, they are real and they are powerful, and the only way we defeat them is by the full armor of Christ, and that's Ephesians 6. So demons are still around doing their thing until they're going to be bound up, but they're not bound up permanently yet. God's timing, he'll do that when he wants. But if you mean people returning as disembodied spirits, no, that's not a biblical paradigm.
No.
But listen,
I meant like people having those spirits fill them up, and then being able to not just like tell the future, but like how God said, doing these miracles. Because I was worrying.
There's counterfeit miracles. The Bible says the man of lawlessness.
Not miracles.
No. The Bible says in Thessalonians, Paul says the man of lawlessness will, and I believe it's in Revelation as well. There's an ability for counterfeit miracles. This is a biblical paradigm. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Remember Moses and the court Egyptians? They were able to imitate the miracles of God to an extent. If you remember, once the water got in the blood, Pharaoh kind of looks over at them and is like, what's up? You got that trick? And they say, this is the divine fingerprint. They say, this is the finger of God. We can't do this one. And so there's sort of a limit to Satan as a creature. He's a creaturely being. There's a limit even to how far he can imitate God. And depending on how you read it, there's a possibility that if there's a man who's the beast in the last days, that he may appear to die, but not actually die. So there's deception. But listen, brother, you got a lot going on there. I actually got to go and take off here, but thank you for the call. Hopefully we can talk again on next Smoke Room. Shalom.